Hey, thanks for joining us. We are thrilled to be live racing back today. Of course, we appreciate all of your patience with the card canceled yesterday. We're here live at Aqueduct Racetrack in South Ozone Park due to some roof maintenance that was going on yesterday, canceling the card. But we are thrilled to be back in action today. The show must go on, and it seems the issue has been rectified. Champion jockey Richard Villoy joining me here today. And Richie, we have two stakes on the card coming up a little bit later on and a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, terrific day of racing and absolutely picture perfect weather. And I was off yesterday anyway, but I'm happy that we're on set today.
Well, it just makes sense. We missed you too much.
Oh,
so
sure.
The MIG is back with us today. And as mentioned, two stakes coming up, both of them on the turf. One of them, the Sands Point, which will go as race number 5 today. Taking a look at the field here. And it's an interesting matchup because you do have a couple going out for Christophe Kaman and a couple going out for Chad Brown as well. We'll start off with we'll start off with Style Points for Christophe, who was dead heating in the Virginia Oaks last time out. This is a filly who she's been right there, cutting back to the mile and an eighth last time out did seem to suit her well, and she'll try to navigate that distance again today.
Yeah, it came with this kind of long, sustained drive, and insistent Manny Franco able to get her nose down on the wire for the dead heat. But this is a strong race. I mean, she got a big figure, looked great doing it, and they finished. Acacia, they came home at 11 2/5, and she was making up ground.
And this was part of that 7-win day extraordinaire for Manny Franco down at Colonial Downs and giving another terrific ride here. And you to see, I mean, noses up and down going to the wire.
Yeah, it's always remarkable to me when horses race 9 furlongs, over a mile, and they wind up hitting the wire at exactly the same moment. It seems so improbable.
One of those things that makes turf racing so exciting. Now, Chad Brown sends out two, one of them being Spaladay, who we saw win the Boiling Springs 2 starts back at Monmouth, finishing 4th last time in the Lake Placid. This is her victory. It was her first start with blinkers on. She got a very good trip this day, a perfect inside-out kind of trip that you like to see on the turf.
Love that. Saving ground, have horse, able to make the corner, and then sipped out to the clear. And she was brave enough, too, to make a little bit of room for herself, the filly outside of him, although I do believe that was another Chad Brown runner. And you wouldn't, even if different ownership, you really wouldn't want to get in each other's way.
Absolutely. Then, as we said, I mean, she got a good trip in the Lake Placid. She finished an okay 4th behind her stablemate Rayosh that day. Chad also sends out Shade of Pale, but a fun race coming up with the Sands Point as race number 4. We will start off the program, though, with the first race here on the main track, 6.5 furlongs, non-winners of 2 in life, and starting off with the one Solo's Fury to meet the field for Jeremiah Engelhardt.
Yeah, comes off a nice effort up at Finger Lakes for Jeremiah, who has the ability. He can ship down from Saratoga to Aqueduct or over to Finger Lakes.
Here's the 2, Messy the Magician, first off the claim.
First off the claim, comes back for the same price. Should be involved early.
J.J. Valentin up next.
I think this is the speed of the speed here. This horse has been showing good speed at Monmouth, finally breaking his maiden last time for 25.
Aaliyah gets back to the dirt.
Another one, though, that could add to the pace that I think will be ample here.
Here's Barry Funny, another new claim.
I think he's very interesting. Yeah. I think he's a closer in a race laden with speed.
Thought was up against the way the track was playing last time out as well. And here's your current favorite, Forward Move, the first time running in a race meant for the main track.
Yeah, and dropping down in class, and you get Dylan Davis, who is just having a terrific Belmont at the Big A meeting.
That's the field for the opener. Early Pick 5 kicking off here. This is what's on tap today. We mentioned that Sands Point. We also have the Floral Park as race 7, Fast and Firm in New York. And do note at 2 p.m. we're going to shift over to FS1. Today's race is, as always, presented by Claiborne Farm. You can join Naira Bets today and play all the action on our program and much more while earning up to a $200 deposit match bonus. Sign up using promo code MATCH200 and you could earn up to a $200 deposit match right after your first deposit. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Join now at nairabets.com for your $200 deposit match. There's a look at the 6 Forward Move, a horse that it seemed after starting off sprinting on the turf was maybe a turf sprinter. Had been rained off several times. That didn't work out last time out, Richie. So now going back to the dirt, do you proceed with a little bit of caution because he's never actually been entered to run on the dirt before?
I think you have to. I mean, listen, the horse is well posted, 6.5 furlongs. More of a closing type, although on turf showed more speed. Um, I'm honestly not seeing this horse as the favorite.
Always dangerous, Linda Rice barn, absolutely. Dylan Davis continuing to have a good meet. I guess trying to run back to that 73 Beyer speed figure. We saw 2 starts back in an off the turf race, but that race does kind of stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. Biggest figure there. And you get Dylan back in the boot. Sometimes a horse and rider just kind of hit it off too, right? Horse responds to a way a rider does certain things. Interesting. I don't know. I'm really like the 5 Very Funny. I just think I like the turn back for this horse. I think it's going to help intensify his turn of foot. Carlos Figueroa claimed this horse last time for 16. Full disclosure, I've watched this horse in the mornings. I think he's doing tremendously well right now. I think he's very interesting.
A horse Juice touched on in the post parade. I thought last time out in that race, you really wanted to be inside on the main track, and this horse was 4 wide throughout and never saw the rail. So one who could improve, talking about the 5 Very Funny. That's a look at the 4 Aaliyah, though. Getting back to the dirt, and look, he's been quite disappointing in his last few races on the turf. Maybe just not a turf horse.
It's always interesting to me, right? When a horse does something well on one surface or one distance and then they change things up. I'm always of the idea that if it's not broke, don't fix it. And this horse broke his maiden nicely under Kendrick Carmouche and then went right to the turf, and that was a failed experiment. I think he's getting back to the proper surface. You're getting Kendrick back aboard. I think there's a lot to like here.
7-2 right now on Aaliyah. And to be fair, I actually talked about him in his 2 races at Saratoga because I thought he would like the turf, but he did not. So back to his preferred surface. We welcome in for the first time today Maggie Wolfendale here with us. Maggie, welcome back. What are you seeing here from these horses for the opener?
Well, Acacia, we do see a favorite on the outside with number 2. We'll see if Forward Move stays that way once they break from the starting gate as your favorite, but he'll return back to the main track. And his race 2 back in an off the turf event, albeit on a muddy surface, definitely wins here. But it's a bit of an outlier when it comes to his form, looking at it overall. Now, I thought he looked really good last time, and I was interested in him, as many were, getting back to the turf, because to me, he does look a little bit more turf bent being out of that arch mare. But I thought he was disappointing. Today, his coat's come in a little bit longer, and of course, it's quite warm. So a lot of these horses getting a little bit hot out on the track and back in the paddock. He was one of them. He's a horse, though, that kind of holds his tail out. And for me, that always hints at a horse being slightly uncomfortable. So I don't necessarily love to see that, especially when you're going to take a short price on one. Now moving on to a layoff runner. That's number 2, Messi the Magician. He'll return off the claim here for Lola Schimmingle, and I thought he looked really good out on the racetrack. I mean, moving well, really well conditioned, but then again, with relation to these horses that have a little bit more recency than he does, thought he could look a little bit more tucked up. But sometimes a fresh horse, a happy horse at this level can get the job done. But I'm with Meg here, and that number 5, Very Funny, I think makes the most sense overall. I don't mind necessarily the cut back to the 6.5 furlongs. He's shown that he can be competitive at this distance in the past, and quite honestly, overall, he just looked best. Now, I don't love his 1-for-13 record, but Carlos Figueroa, with a limited amount of starters and a smaller barn, I think does do a great job, and his horses are always led over looking like they are ready to take down any field they compete against. So I'm going to land with Very Funny here, maybe changing things up with that distance change off the claim. We could see him in the winner's circle, Acacia.
Might be the perfect formula, Maggie. Thank you. All of us with interest in the 5 Very Funny, but Richie, just the points that Maggie brought up just made some sense. And as you were touching on Carlos Figueroa, maybe a name that many people may not recognize, but certainly a trainer and a horseman with a lot of experience.
Yeah, a lot of experience, a good horseman. Full disclosure, I grew up with Carlos. Carlos and David Figueroa were my best friends growing up. We all left home together to join the racetrack, right? We ran away to the circus. And Carlos was on his way to, having a big stable, and things were going well. And sidetracked here and there, but he's back on the beam, and his horses always look good.
They do. They always look the part. How to win the end of the meet at Saratoga with Lane Leslie. So they'll team up here with this one at 7-2. First off the claim. Let's touch on the two, Messi the Magician, who Maggie touched on, looking well off the claim and off of a bit of a layoff. Now, he's another one that kind of has that one race back with that 85 fire speed figure in March that sticks out. This is his last race where he finished a distant second, but does get in with a 10-pound apprentice in Amar Otero in here climbing aboard.
Yeah, so you're getting a big break in the weights, right? It gets in with 113 pounds, so in receipt of anywhere from 5 to 8 pounds from the rest of the field. And that's because you have an apprentice jockey aboard, and it's an incentive for owners and trainers to give an inexperienced rider an opportunity. It's a trade-off. You're giving away the experience, but you're getting a break in the weights. I'm always of the opinion, though, when you see a horse come off a layoff, I like to see a bit more of an in-depth work pattern. I'm just not seeing a tremendous amount of works coming in this, and it makes me feel like this horse will be better for a race under his belt.
6-1 right now on Messi the Magician. There's Solos Fury going towards the starting gate with Manny Franco, one who the last time we saw on the Nairo circuit ran in an off-the-turf race for 40,000. So as far as what he's been facing on the Nairo circuit recently, he has been running against tougher.
Has been running against tougher, no doubt about that. Maya sends him up to Finger Lakes. And again, Jeremiah has the ability. He can ship a horse a few hours to the west to Finger Lakes, or come down a few hours south to Ozone Park and get it done. But 5.5 is a much different race, too, than 6.5. It's just more of a frenetic kind of pace, shorter run to that first turn in Saratoga. I think 6.5 probably benefits this horse.
And he's one that often can be a little bit tricky at the gate. As you see the starting gate crew working with Solos Fury, the favorite continuing to be, though, Forward Move, who looks like he will have to do exactly that to get the victory here. Race 1 on this Saturday, Belmont at the Big A. Chris Griffin, he's ready for an 11-race card. He's standing by with the rest of the load and call.
And Forward Move, last load to the outside. Ready for the opener. Start of the early pick 5. And they're off. Good speed here from Aaliyah right to the front in the red cap. On the far outside, that's Forward Move. Is now going to stalk the pace setter with Messi the Magician. In the 2-path, in tight at the rail is Solos Fury. Those are the leaders, the leading quartet as they work up the backstretch. Now shuffled out of there is J.J. Valentin, and the trailer is now Barry Funny, who's moving forward quickly as all the way back to last is J.J. Valentin. The leader, Aaliyah. As they work up the backstretch, approach 4 furlongs left to go. Aaliyah's got the lead. Kender Carmouche in hand right now as they move into that turn, or a half length in front of Forward Move, who's right there in the 2-path 3 wide. Here comes the move in the orange cap from Barry Funny, and Lane Leslie there on the move. Coming after the leader now. They're well into the far turn. Messi the Magician is all in. J.J. Valentin trying to make up some ground, and now the trailer is Solos Fury. They haven't caught Aaliyah, who's still in front, is still up by a neck. In between horses, Forward Move and Dylan Davis now shoved along as they reach the top of the stretch, and Barry Funny continues to bear down on rivals. 3 across the racetrack here in the opener, and now to the outside, Barry Funny is in front. It's Forward Move, who's wandering about, but is very game towards the inside, and these two bandy back and forth inside the final furlong, and now Forward Move is well clear. It's Forward Move who's up by a full length. Barry Funny starts to stall there in second. It's going to be Forward Move, Dylan Davis in the opener. Barry Funny second, then came Aaliyah and J.J. Valentin.
Well, maybe it wasn't the prettiest, but Forward Move does get the victory here, delivering on that favoritism.
It looked like Barry Funny was poised to go right by Forward Move as they turned for home, but you see Forward Move's lingering on his left lead, right? And watch when he finally gets over to his right lead. He's going to come up right there.
It almost is like when Dylan Davis, which I think was smart, brought him out towards Barry Funny, almost kind of jostling his neighbor a little bit, and that caused the horse to switch leads.
Yeah, make a horse engage. That's the art of race riding, right? And then he gets over to his right lead, and he finds a bit more. Think about it. You're running through the airport. You got your bag in one hand. You're trying to make that flight. As you get tired, instinctively, you just put it in your other hand. You find a bit more energy. That's the best way to explain changing leads. And right here, he's going to get over to the right lead right there. And that's when he found more. Very nice effort from Barry Funny, but the public had it right once again with Forward Move, who seemingly took a forward move.
He did indeed. 6-5-4-3 in the opener. Forward move with the victory. Linda Rice picks up another one, as does Dylan Davis. As we'll bring you prices and more in a moment, and talk a little bit about the Christophe Clement barn, who has been on a roll as far as the stakes wins are concerned. It's going to look for 2 more this afternoon into Sands Point and the Floral Park. More on that after this.
In this sport, it takes just one special horse and a lot of people that believe in him. By Champion Arrogant from the family of Broodmare of the Year, Better Than Honor, rose to prominence in the Grade 3 Peter Pan, displayed power in the Grade 1 Belmont, cemented his 3-year-old championship in the Grade 1 Travers, defeating a champion 2-year-old, Kentucky Derby, and Preakness winners.
And the Eclipse Award goes to Arcangelo.
Arcangelo, standing at Lane's End.
You're watching America's Day at the Races, brought to you by Naira Bets. You can bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Get started at nairabets.com today. Race 1, we do have an inquiry posted. We are not sure what this is involving. They already took the photo with the winner, the number 6 forward move. So as soon as we have some information, we will update you. But forward move, like I said, got his photo taken. Dylan Davis in the saddle, and Dylan standing by with Maggie.
Here with Dylan Davis, and Dylan, we're all watching the TV, but I think we declared that didn't involve you. As forward move, though, he is one that took a little while to switch his leads, but I feel like once he did, he leveled off.
Yes, he did, Maggie. I've ridden him at Saratoga. He was a little bit complacent with me on the inside. He broke well with me, and he fell back too much to do, and he re-rallied. So he ran really well, but I was happy with my outside post today and clean spot. And I had to work on him early because he's really tough to get going, but with the 5-horse pressing me into the turn, I got into him, didn't give him no chance, and then he just showed his stuff that last 1/8 of a mile and excelled through.
Dylan, so often we see when you have ridden a horse in the past, you just seem to know them and therefore ride them with a bit more confidence, a bit more knowledge. How imperative is it to have the experience with a horse?
Oh, it's definitely big. You know, you know how much horse you have underneath you and what works. You know, you try to trip out, and now you're learning as you go. You can only do so much homework by watching the replays, but once you get on them and you don't run the race, you're hoping that you can ride them again and you can do better and learn from what we have to do.
Awesome. Well said. But a horse that you will actually be riding for the first time later on in the Stakes of Floral Park Stakes, actually, but for a team that you have been highly successful for in the Christophe Clement barn. But Love Appeals, you'll jump aboard today. Talk a little bit about getting on her. I know she has some tactical speed that could make her dangerous.
Yeah, so with the inside spot, we're just trying to break well and get it in forward position. I talked to the boss this morning and just try to get a good spot going into that turn, and then going from there, I think we're going to be in a great spot. And if I can get that position, then I think we're just going to have a good big finish.
You found it many times before. Well, best of luck with her, and nice way to kick off this day.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, forward move, and Dylan hoping, Acacia, that yes, he does just that throughout this card.
Could be a good afternoon for the Davis Clement team coming up. Dylan picking up the win. Maggie, thank you here in the first race with Forward Move. And she set us up beautifully for the conversation. In fact, on the Floral Park coming up a little bit later on, Richie, where Dylan will have the opportunity to be aboard Love Appeals for the first time. And her tactical speed should benefit because we'll take a look at Risk Threshold. She could be the one controlling things on the front end. However, she really was kind of dressed up by the way the turf course was playing because she's not the horse that's quickest early out of the gate. Risk Threshold.
No, she actually broke a half a step slow, and then she just kind of takes the bit and goes. She seems very one-dimensional to me. She wants to make the lead, run as fast and as hard as she can. And you saw, Junior Alvarado, when she broke a step slow, he had asked her a little bit, but then immediately kind of dropped anchor because she's going to do too much, right? She's overly generous, maybe.
She is, and like we said, you wanted to be on the inside in particular. You wanted to be forward on the turf at that time. Turf playing much more fair at this stage of the game, but that was off of a bit of a layoff for Risk Threshold. She did win 2 starts back using some speed as well. Big jump up in the speed figure last time, but does look like she's a horse that could potentially, like I said, be controlling things early, especially with some of the scratches in here with Tequilera coming out, and how about Apples makes the speed of this filly very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it really does look like she gets a pretty free ride on the lead, doesn't it? I don't see anybody that can entertain her early. I think Love Appeals, who I think has a big shot here, needs to get right in behind her and follow her wake. And Dylan Davis has been riding the turf that way, staying very disciplined and following the flow of the race, not going to the right or sideways while the race is going forward.
And as far as Love Appeals and Loon Cry, as you were talking about with Dylan and the tactics that he should employ with Love Appeals, she comes out of a 3rd place finish behind her stablemate Loon Cry, the New York bred. Loon Cry kind of that big one-run closer that finished with such a flurry, whereas Love Appeals last time at Laurel kind of rushed up in between horses to get some position, and I don't know if she was necessarily the most comfortable throughout the running of the race with that trip.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes, too, it just kind of mitigates or mutes their late kick instead of just sitting, waiting, making that one pop, that one run. I think Loon Cry could be up against it a bit. Also, it's a different turf course. I mean, people say, well, grass is grass. Laurel is a much different course than Aqueduct would be, let's say. So I think tactically, Love Appeals is going to get the right kind of trip right in behind what I would term live cover in Risk Threshold. I don't think you have to worry about her backing up in your face. Just follow her intently.
We look forward to that Floral Park coming up in a little bit. It'll be race number 7 today. As we head back over to race 1, inquiry sign has been removed. It is now official. The 6th Forward Move, as we heard Maggie in that interview saying whatever Stewart's looking at, not affecting the winner there. $6.50 victory for Forward Move in race number 1. We take a look at the field for the 2nd, 7 furlongs on the main track and the starter allowance race here. And right now it is the entry, currently a short price at 7-5 with Tommy Two Stocks and Master of Arms. Jockey Lane Leslie, though, will be aboard. A long shot coming up here is Sin Nombre, the 4. Did finish 2nd in the first race, though, as he is following in his father's footsteps of becoming a jockey here on the NYRA circuit. More on his story after this.
It's a domineering display by the ultra-talented McKenzie. McKenzie in a dominant performance.
1, all due, 1,200,000, 900 now, 950,000.
700, 725,000.
Chancer McPatrick proves best
in the hopeful.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
They're off in the hopeful. Here's Basin now running up alongside, and Basin grabs the lead. Basin and Jose Ortiz are running away in the hopeful.
There's a passion in this game that grabs you, and you will not be able to let go.
I'm so blessed to do what I do. I don't lose sight of that for a half a second ever.
If you've never experienced the race, you need to experience it, and then tell me that it doesn't get your heart pounding.
It's like a thunderstorm coming. I mean, it's like electric, and it just shoof, they whisk past you.
Okay, here's heaven for horses. This is heaven.
For jockey Lane Luzzy, it wasn't a matter of if, but when he would fulfill his dream of riding races.
Being a jockey is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. I mean, I was good in school, I played sports, like any normal kid, but there was no plan B for me. I just wanted to be a jockey, grow up watching my dad here at Aqueduct, Belmont, and you know, it was just always a treat to come out to the races. I love horses in general, and I have the physique for it, so this is what I was born to do.
Even his father, former rider and now his agent, Mike Luzzy, knew it was just a matter of time.
If he wasn't in school, he was in the jockey's room. So he kind of grew up in a jockey's room and was always around it and always wanted to be here. He learned to ride on the Equicizer before he ever rode a real horse. But he did start getting on horses right at Belmont Park. He went to Floral Park Memorial across the street. And when he started working, he would work in the morning first and then go to high school.
As Lane's career expanded, the two worlds collided in Texas before one special afternoon in Queens.
I went to Texas for 10 days and rode with him for the 10 days, and that was an experience. We actually rode one race here.
There was somebody else named on the horse that I ended up riding, but for whatever reason, they needed a jockey, and they loaded us in the gate at the same time, and we just kind of looked over, and you know, you couldn't really believe it, but at the same time, you're focused on doing your job, and we just both had a passion for race riding and horse racing in general. It was really cool.
When it came time for Mike to call it a career, he never expected to become a full-time agent, especially for his son.
I'll start by saying I never thought I'd be an agent or wanted to be an agent. You know, it was kind of a surprise to me. I was in Saratoga and getting on horses, and when the horses left in November, matter of fact, I was the last one on the track exercising a horse. I went a few weeks like kind of bummed out that the horses were gone, and that's when Lane came up with the idea to be his agent.
I needed something to get me started, and he was wrapping up his career and needed something to do. And it was always something we joked about, how we would never do what we're doing now, working together, father and son. And it's just kind of how the cards were played. We both love this profession. We both love horse racing. It was almost meant to be.
The name Luzzy has become a staple in New York racing over the last 30 years. And it doesn't look like that will change anytime soon.
I'm home, I'm here. I grew up a few miles from here, and I've done a little traveling in my time, but I'm home now. I'm excited to be here and enjoying the ride.
There's Lane Luzzy's mount, Sin Nombre, in this upcoming second race. Finished second in race one. And Richie, I know you rode with Mike for many years and really had the opportunity to see Lane grow up.
Yeah, I've known Lane since he was a baby, and you know, competed with his dad Mike, who's a tremendous race rider and a really tough competitor. So I get a big kick out of watching all of these kids that I watched grow up now taking their spot in these jockeys' room, obviously, or the Davis children, and now Lane Luzzy. It's a pretty cool thing to watch.
Lane will be aboard 19 to 1 shot. Sin Nombre getting blinkers on for the first time in this upcoming second race. We have pick 4 kicking off here, and not surprisingly, the entry is favored. The one Tommy Two Socks, who has some tactical speed, as is the 1A Master of Arms, as Linda Rice and Dylan Davis will look to sweep the early double.
Yeah, Master of Arms coming off a claim last time off of Jamie Begg. Has good figures. This horse is consistent, and now you get Dylan Davis coming right back for Linda Rice after taking down the first.
Looking to keep the momentum going. Maggie, we'll see if this team can stay hot in race 2.
Yeah, exactly, Acacia. And looking at Master of Arms, a horse that I thought when he came to Saratoga for previous trainer John Ortiz, that physically he looked tremendous, but I just thought, can he get out of the gate? And that's where we'll see him successful. Well, he did. If you go 3 starts back, and ever since then, he has been breaking better than what he was prior. But also since then, I don't particularly think he looks as good, and maybe it's just kind of going into the fall and the cooler mornings and what have you. But this guy off the claim for Linda Rice, and albeit she hasn't had him a particularly long time, I thought he looked a bit dull in his coat, and he's just a little bit lighter overall. Now the front wraps do go on here too, and but the way he looks isn't reflective of the way he's running, because in all honesty, he ran really well last time against the racetrack, where we saw secret rules for Michelle Giangiulio, pair races back to back, and he was just a little bit more inside, a little bit more forward than Master of Arms on a track that you really wanted to be those two things. And Master of Arms chasing on the far outside, you could see the track just playing against him down the stretch where he just kind of appeared to be stalling. We'll see. Sometimes when horses go this way, and especially for a trainer like Linda Rice, whose horses are typically really well turned out, it's only a matter of time before that kind of catches up with them, as we'll go to the aforementioned Michelle Giangiulio's horse. This one is Debate, number 6, and I thought a horse that 3 back completely against the track for Michelle. Then they experimented with the turf. That didn't go so well. And then he comes back, drops in class a bit, and gets the win, going the 7 furlongs. Now, he's a horse that does not possess that much early speed. So that is his biggest downfall, I would say. But physically, overall, here in the paddock, I think he looks fantastic. And I feel like sometimes once Michelle figures a horse out, she tends to keep them rolling. And at least to my eye, it looks as though he is in really, really good form right now, as he kind of steps back up in class. Now, I know we just saw the feature on Lane Luzzy, and Sin Nombre on form doesn't necessarily speak to one, but looking at him here in the paddock, this guy looks tremendous. For lower profile connections, he's dappled head to toe, nicely on the bridle, kind of exuding that confidence you like to see. And they do add blinkers today, a pair of 3/4 cups. So we'll see if that helps this guy, who at times hasn't been the truest, I think, on the racetrack. Used to be a really bad actor and kind of reflective in the way he ran. Then they gelded him. He started to get his act together. But I think with the addition of blinkers, Acacia, this could be another equipment change that could set him up for some success.
And he's a generous price, Maggie. Thank you. 21 to 1 right now on Sin Nombre with that addition of blinkers. But as far as the pace is concerned, I think you have to talk about Dillinger, who he and Tommy Two Socks coming out of that race August 30th at Saratoga. Dillinger kind of the one that ran best in there, sustaining a run after that crazy pace. But Ramiro, who's very far back, coming to run and close and get them all down.
Yeah, I think the post positions really helped Dillinger here, though, right? Because now he's drawn outside. Last time he was 2 of 6. So he was down towards the inside, right? Kind of force your hand. Want to keep your position going forward, hold your spot. I think he gets more of a stalking trip today, and that could make him double tough here.
He's a horse that has ran very good races in Saratoga. Tommy Two Socks kind of in that race too, kind of running in place a bit late. He's part of that favored entry, but Dillinger there, he is 7-2, drawn towards the outside with Manny Franco in the saddle. Maggie talked about the 6 Debate, who's 2-1 right now, taking quite a bit of attention from that 8-1 morning line. And Michelle Giangulio's barn has been on fire as well. I think you have to pay attention with a horse that maybe just found the conditions that suit him better. 3 starts back running quite well, but going 1 mile and 3/16 last time out, winning at 7 furlongs.
Yeah, the big turn back in distance. He's a deep closer, particularly sprinting. And I just think today's race just looks so much tougher to me. And I liked him last time. I actually thought he would handle the turf, and he did not. But the turn back in distance certainly did the trick, and surface getting back to the dirt. I just think this race is a lot deeper.
There's a shot of Lane Luzzy walking out. His long shot runner got some good marks from Maggie in the paddock as far as his appearance does go. And a horse that, yeah, he would have to turn things around. But to be fair, he was running against New York bred First Level Allowance Company last time out, a salty field that he was facing.
Yeah, a good solid group. They ran fast early. It was a very sharp pace. He adds the blinkers, like Maggie talked about, getting the change. Listen, he won 3 back at 33-1, so 22-1 is no big thing for Lane Luzzy. And if we go by the angle, every time we do a feature, it seems like whoever we did the feature on does well.
I know. This is why nobody gives us any trouble when we ask to do features on them, because it has proved to be a powerful angle. The entry 3-2, though. I know that it's the buy one, get one free angle, and entries are tough, and I know that you could make a case, particularly for Master of Arms based off his figures, but I thought in this field, that's just a very short price to take, Richie.
I agree. Listen, Master of Arms on his own would be favored. I agree with you. I think the 2 for the price of 1 certainly attracts people as well.
We'll meet the field starting off with that entry. Here's Tommy Two Socks.
Yeah, attended the pace last time. A sharp pace it was, too, in Saratoga. And you get Jose Lezcano for Linda Rice.
Dylan Davis and Linda Rice win the opener. They'll team up again with Master of Arms.
Yeah, he just makes a lot of sense. He should be drafting in behind the pace and projects to get a good trip.
Bit of a layoff for the 2 Clubhouse.
Yeah, it was rushed along last time into a very fast pace. From the inside again, does he get a similar trip?
Here's Night Effect. Bit of a price for a horse that has some speed.
Yeah, turns back in distance, too, and put himself in the game each of his last 2 starts.
Sin Nombre with Lane Luzzy.
Well, a horse that, like I said, wanted a big price 3 back, and you get the subject of the feature.
Uncle Charlie's Gift went by. Here is Michelle Giangulio's runner, Debate.
Yeah, bred by Claiborne Farm and Adele Dilschneider. Debate, deep closer.
And Dillinger was part of that crazy pace last time out.
I think he gets a different trip today. I think he sits a stalking trip, and I'm going to take a little bit of a flyer with him to upset the apple cart and get it done as your 3rd choice right now.
The number 5, Uncle Charlie's Gift, though. He got the win last time out when being able to wire the field pretty comfortably going 1 mile. We'll turn back a little bit to the 7/8 today and likely won't get that kind of trip with that slow pace, but it's always fun when you get a chance to see a horse trained by this man, the one and only Nick Zito, and getting a chance to catch up with Nick after that was probably one of my favorite interviews of the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we know about Nick, it's raw emotion. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's somebody that's been a part of our game for as long as I can remember, and that's a long time.
We'll send out Uncle Charlie's Gift here, trained some really, truly great horses over the years. Nick Zito, best of luck to Nick here as Uncle Charlie's Gift will step up in class looking for back-to-back victories. We talked a lot about some horses that have the ability to be forwardly placed. How do you see the pace playing out in here?
I think post positions dictate tactics sometimes, and I see that here. Clubhouse from the inside. Romero Mirage has to go forward. Night Effect has proved most effective when he's close. Tommy Two Socks is part of an entry where the other part of the entry has a different style, so you got to think they're going forward with the 1, Tommy Two Socks as well. And Dillinger has maybe the most natural speed, but the post position allows him the opportunity to break and just put his hands down and let him find his rhythm instead of being forced into the pace.
Well, there's the other part of the entry. We haven't talked much about Tommy Two Socks coming out of that same race as Dillinger. For more, let's go back to Maggie.
And Acacia, I actually much prefer Tommy Two Socks, at least based on appearances of that favored entry for Linda Rice. And as you guys mentioned, he does have that early speed, and he's been showing it. He was keen and eager back in the paddock, and he is full of beans out on the racetrack. Really jumped into the bridle for Jose Lezcano in the warm-up, moving well, and really just everything you want in a horse. Fit, but great conditioning that he's carrying. And I feel like he's the one that might be heading in the right direction, but he has to get around Dillinger, where we saw Bramito come back and run very well in an allowance and Fit running an 85 buyer that day. So it feels like that field might be pretty good. But Dillinger, as we turn our attention to him, has been so game. I kind of feel bad for him in his last 2 losses because there's every reason to believe that he could have won. He had to do all the dirty work in those last 2 races and was just run down by horses or unable to get by a horse in those 2 efforts. So he's very sharp, but it's very controlled in the prelim so far. He's gotten a little bit warm, but again, like I said, it's unseasonably warm out here today for nearly mid-October. I don't mind him, and I see why Mig likes him. It makes a lot of sense. It's just how many good but non-winning efforts are in a horse like this. That Brittany Russell, all credit to her, has pretty much resurrected from his former connections. So we'll see. I think that's a generous 7-2 price on him, but I could not get past how well Debate looks, and I'm hoping there is some pace up front for him to run at, guys.
He may get a bit of a setup in here. Maggie, thank you. As far as the question that she posed to Dillinger, though, Richie, I'll bring it up to you. Well, quickly, first, want to remind everybody you can earn a 10% bonus today just by playing with Naira Bets. Hit a win bet on Belmont at the Big A or Keeneland in races 1 through 5, and you could earn a 10% bonus on your ticket winnings. Just be sure to opt in at NairaBets.com. So back to Dillinger here, 3-1 right now on this horse. This was one who it seemed was a huge drop in class 3 starts back in Saratoga. Was he just kind of the horse to beat, or was it a bit of a give up? He won by 8 1/4 lengths that day and then has been running in this starter allowance condition without winning. And I think Maggie's question is interesting because how much do those efforts make us think, oh, this is a horse to go back to, there's a little bit more in the tank? How much of it is him maybe being dressed up by circumstance?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm one of these people that believes horses only have so many A efforts in them. Well, we got a late scratch here.
It looks like it's going to be a late scratch of the 1A Master of Arms. That's Dylan Davis. So he will be a late scratch here, part of that favored entry, leaving Tommy Two Socks here solo for race number 2.
But now will Tommy Two Socks be running for purse only?
I believe yes. Yes.
Okay, so
yes,
this board is going to change considerably now.
It will be. So with the late scratch of the 1A, Tommy Two Socks will now run solo, but for purse money only. So I would imagine the favoritism is actually going to shift over to the 7 now, Dillinger.
Yeah, I think it will. And getting back to what we were talking about with Dillinger, horses only have so many A efforts in them, right? It's great when horses could win with their B, C, or even D efforts because they have those races to go back to. Obviously, your good horses have more of those A efforts in them. This horse has given his everything in each of his last 2 starts just to be run down. But he was part of paces because he was more inside of horses and he was forced. I think the outside post, now he did it 3 starts back. He was 7 of 7, against much easier. But I see him getting a similar kind of trip. And again, now the complexion of the race is completely changed in the board. I still see that they have the 1 up on the board, so it'll be interesting to see how this is handled, if he's running for purse money only or not.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive that if a entry mate scratches that the other remaining part of the entry, in a late scratch I should say, that the remaining part of the entry will be purse money only.
Yeah, that's the way I understood it, but again, the fact that he's still on the board has me questioning myself.
Right, so we'll keep you posted on that. We'll try to confirm, but pretty certain that will be the case, that the lane 1 Tommy Two Socks will run for purse money only with the late scratch of the 1A Master of Arms. So how does this potentially change? We know how it will change the betting, but how does it change the dynamics of the race? Because Master of Arms was a horse that would be forward.
He would have been forward,
Yes,
but
and now it has been updated. So again, not scratched the one, I apologize for interrupting there, not scratched Tommy Two Socks will run, but for purse money only. Sorry,
yeah, but I do think that a Master of Arms would have still been drafting just in behind the pace, because I think his stablemate, Tommy Two Socks, had more natural pace. Maybe it changes a bit now that Tommy Two Socks has to race more just on his own merits, as opposed to pulling off a strategy that would aid a horse to sit just off the pace like Master of Arms. The fact that he's out now, it'll be interesting to see. One thing about Jose Lezcano, though, he adheres to one of those principles that I believed in when I rode Acacia, getting your position going forward, and he does that consistently.
Tommy Two Socks, he was able to run down the Loose Raging 2 starts back. Part of that early pace last time, Bramido, who was very far back, came running. He came back to win again with a similar kind of trip. Bramido with an 85 by your speed figure, one of 2 out of that race to come out and win. So Tommy Two Socks coming out of a live race, and now you do see that running for purse money only. So now by default, kind of the favoritism going over to the 7 Dillinger at 6-5, which makes sense, as this is a horse who was kind of that clear second choice. The 6 Debate taking some money as well, who Maggie had such high comments to say, and a lot of changes coming up with this race. Quick comment on the 3 Night Effect. He's a horse that doesn't win a lot, but has been right there in his last few races.
Well, in his last race, got that big buyer speed figure, and he has races that are similar to that in the past, so you know that wasn't just a one-off or a fluke.
All right, so late scratch of the 1A means the 1 will run, but for purse money only here in race number 2. Loading in for the starter allowance, Belmont at the Big Egg. We'll send it up to Chris Griffin.
Sin Nombre goes in. Uncle Charlie's Gift. Uncle Charlie's Gift goes in. 2 out. The 1 Tommy Two Socks is purse money only. There's Debate and Dillinger to the outside. Dillinger goes in. Unsettled there, Uncle Charlie's Gift. Back aboard. All set. Now fractious there is the 2 Clubhouse. Starter is going behind the starting gate. Now in. More settled. And they're off. Dillinger breaks well from the outside draw, and in between horses, here comes Sin Nombre to push the tempo. Night Effect is in the early mix in Clubhouse. 5 across the racetrack here as Uncle Charlie's Gift is up with the early action. Sin Nombre with a head in front, and Night Effect goes right with this leader. These 2 now head in head. Up on the far outside, moving forward quickly there is the purse money only. That's Tommy Two Socks is on the far outside of the racetrack. Uncle Charlie's Gift is tracking in 3rd, and behind them, now in the lime green sleeves, that's Dillinger, as that's the leading 5. Clubhouse, and far, far back is Debate, who's the trailer. They get set to approach 4 furlongs to go, and Night Effect is right there. It's Night Effect and Sin Nombre. The purse money only is 3 wide. Dillinger is trying to make a move here 4 wide. Uncle Charlie's Gift has lost some ground. Clubhouse is in the blue cap, is shoved along, not making up ground here, is now a challenging 5th, and still far back is Debate. They're chasing Night Effect. Night Effect has got the lead. Sin Nombre is now back to 2nd, and here comes Dillinger ranging up on the outside. It's Dillinger to the outside, is in hand. A quick look back here from Manny Franco, and now Dillinger gets the cue to kick for home. Night Effect is very game towards the inside, and these 2 now shoulder to shoulder as they approach that final furlong. Dillinger getting out of touch, but now straightens up, and Night Effect will just not go away. Down to these 2 as they're approaching. A 16th left to go. Dillinger and the stubborn Night Effect won't give in. Night Effect is back in front. Night Effect will win it. Night Effect wins it over Dillinger. Then came Uncle Charlie's Gift and Debate.
They made it exciting down to the wire. Night Effect coming back and showing some fight, which usually he's quite content to be second best.
Well, I think it was a matter of you had Dillinger, who was taken back early, had a race 4-5 wide the entirety of the turn, who is 2 wins, 5 seconds, with Night Effect, who, even though he was a part of the pace, got to stay inside, save more ground, and now he has 3 wins and 5 seconds. And much like the first race, came out engaged, switched leads very, very late, and found just a bit more. Manny Franco was doing such a good job trying to stay away from Night Effect, right? You could see he went left to his left-handed crop. He went away from him. Louis Rivera Jr. trying to come out. See his horse's head turned out to engage with him. And watch very late, right here.
Right there.
Right there. He got his right lead, found just a touch more. And maybe it was a battle of which horse was less polite than the other. They were both like, no, 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 after you.
And with Dillinger, too, we've seen he's the type of horse that does tend to kind of run with his head turned out a bit. He wears one of those cage bits, and Manny obviously was aware of that, having ridden this horse before, and might have been in large part why he was trying to keep a little bit of space there.
Yeah, and also you just never want to engage a horse that you feel like you have momentum on, right? You don't want to make them game. I always think of those old fight films when the trainer's in the corner yelling at his fighter to stay away from him in the last round. You've already got the win by decision. Don't take a chance of getting a knockout punch. That's what I was seeing here. He went down a little bit closer to Night Effect, or Night Effect came out to him in essence, and just outgamed Dillinger, who didn't have an ideal trip when he was stuck wide the entirety of the turn.
He certainly was, but it was Night Effect to get the first win since January. It's been quite a while since he's seen the winner's circle. You'll get to there today at 3-1, 3, 7, 5, 6. Prices and more when we come back.
At the Keeneland September yearling sale, the premier thoroughbred auction venue in the world, Mandy Pope of Whisper Hill Farm signed the ticket on the $5 million sale topper by Curlin, bred by Stone Street Thoroughbred Holdings. He was one of $5 million plus yearlings by Curlin to sell. No fewer than 44 of his yearlings fell to the auction gavel, averaging nearly $600,000, making Curlin the #1 sales sire at the September sale. Curlin, the classic sire.
Welcome back. You're watching America's Day at the Races. We are proudly brought to you by Claiborne Farm. 100 years of doing the usual unusually well. Well, Night Effect in today's second race would not be denied as he gets the win. And I'm pleased to be joined by winning trainer and owner Roshan Samsunder and Emily as well, of Emily Racing fame, of course. But Roshan, we've seen this guy be competitive, and last time against a much tougher field, I thought ran very well. How proud were you? As you said, you lost your voice because you were screaming so hard.
I was screaming so loud that I couldn't even, I'm glad you had an extra minute so I could catch myself back. I'm really, really, really proud of this horse. He's been doing good, training good, and I always know he's gonna always show up every time he runs. It's just the matter of time to get the win.
And really, really game to the wire. Well, you're not a new face for us. Tell us a little bit about your background in training horses.
Okay, so I actually born in horses. Back home, I was a jockey. I rode a few, won a couple, and my whole life I wanted to be a trainer. Never expect I would get it done, and finally here and getting it going together, pretty much.
Your horses look tremendous as well, and Emily and the whole family out here today. How proud are you of your dad?
I'm very proud of my dad, and most important, I'm more proud of my horses because I've been trying to help them grow, and now they won, and that one looks so ready and looks so strong and running.
He does. Why do you love horses so much?
Because since my dad is since my dad's horse, he taught me to be a horse girl.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Same.
She's going to be the trainer, and this one is going to be the jockey next.
You got the whole family lineage figured out. Well, Emily, massive congratulations. Your first win as an owner?
No.
Oh, this is old hack. Sorry. But Roshan, congratulations. Really big effort from this guy today.
Yeah, appreciate it, and thanks very much.
Oh, this was great. A whole family affair. And watch out. Emily is on the scene. Next trainer coming up strong.
Thank you.
She knows her stuff. What a great interview with the family. And Emily, I think, is my new favorite person at the racetrack.
What a sweetheart. What a beautiful interview. That was great. That embodies everything good about racing to me, because so many times it is a family affair, and the excitement and the love of the horses is so infectious that we all have this shared common passion, and you saw it on full display there, and how proud she was of her dad.
It really was. Congratulations to the Samsonite family. Very exciting win there with Night Effect. So we take a look at the field for race 3 coming up next. This one will be a sprint on the main track for fillies and mares, 6.5 furlong, $25,000 claiming race, and right now it is the lone part of the entry. What do you know? It's Linda Rice. This one, Spring Magic, remaining part here with the scratch of the 1A. Taking a drop in class, currently the favorite.
Yeah, dropping back down in class, was claimed for 35, now in for 25, and turning back in distance. Another horse that, to me, I like turnbacks because I just think it intensifies their finishing kick.
Even money right now on Spring Magic. We'll talk a little bit more about her chances in a moment, but first, there's a huge distaff showdown coming up between the 3-year-old Torpedo Anna and the older horse Idiomatic. Cannot wait to see those two line up against one another.
How magnificent was Full Count Felicia? Never in doubt.
First World War.
Fort Washington on the outside.
Goliath, razor sharp to score in the Thunder Road.
Warfront, standing at Claiborne Farm.
RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. True odds, predictive analysis, and pace projection. RaceLens. It will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level.
For centuries, the bond between horse and human has been forged in trust and hands-on care. Thoroughbred Racing is combining that tradition with cutting-edge technology to raise our standards even higher. New investments in wearable biometrics, advanced imaging, and AI help optimize our safety programs.
That opening quarter mile was a quick one.
Every day, a commitment to improving their care. So win or lose, it's safety that runs first. To learn more, visit safetyrunsfirst.com.
Grayson Jockey Club Research Foundation was formed in 1940 with a simple goal: to raise funds for research to enhance the health and soundness of horses. Since then, we've provided millions of dollars to hundreds of projects at universities around the world, leading to major advances in welfare. Our process of selecting and producing peer-reviewed research has become the trusted industry standard. And with your help, we'll be here for many years to come, supporting the health and wellness of all horses.
You're watching America's Day at the Races on this beautiful Saturday afternoon as we have race 3 coming up next here in New York. But first, as we mentioned before the break, a big showdown to look forward to in the Breeders' Cup, particularly in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, which will be a fun matchup. Hopefully everybody makes it into the starting gate as anticipated, but particularly looking forward to seeing Torpedo Anna versus Idiomatic, the 3-year-old filly Torpedo Anna, who has been so dominant, versus Idiomatic, last year's Breeders' Cup winner, just coming in off a win in the Spinster, which I think was an important victory for her, Richie, with some questions this year is if she had lost a step.
Well, you always have to ask that question as horses get older. You know, horses aren't fully developed until they're 5 years old, but their enthusiasm can wane for the job. And I was one of the people that kind of questioned that, and I thought her run in the Personal Ensign showed that that wasn't the case. I mean, she did all the dirty work, fought everybody off, and was picked off late by Raging Sea, who came back to win again here. I thought that was a big effort. That showed me even more maybe than this Spinster, which it was just a tour de force for her. She got to control everything, and she's a very, very good horse that I think we could put to bed any idea that maybe she isn't as enthusiastic as she once was.
Absolutely. She looks pretty enthusiastic there in her stall. She looks pretty fired up about life. I'm a big fan of hers too, and it's been a lot of fun for her to get a chance to race again this year, coming back in 2024. She's already proved quite a bit, but this is what she's done this year. And while yes, there's questions of does she lose a step, the worst finishes she's had are a second in the Grade 1 Ogden Phipps and a second after that blazing pace, digging in, getting caught late in the Grade 1 Personal Ensign.
Yeah, they went 46 and change going a mile and 1/8 in Saratoga. That's way too fast a pace. We've seen a lot of good horses wilt under that kind of pressure, and she didn't wilt. She fought. It was 10 lengths or better back to the 3rd place finisher, and Raging Sea came back and complemented that effort with another winning effort. So Idiomatic, daughter of Curlin, and big, strong, strapping daughter of Curlin as well.
Yeah, she certainly is. She's kind of the queen of the filly and mare division. And then you have the princess, so to speak, that's been so dominant versus 3-year-olds in Torpedo Anna. Bring Maggie in for the conversation. Maggie, I know you got to see her last time out in the Cotillion. What are your thoughts about Torpedo Anna as she steps forward to take on the older mares?
Right, it's the one division she hasn't taken on yet this season. She did take on the 3-year-old boys 2 starts ago in the Travers and lost nothing in defeat, running a close second that day. Now, she did come back with that win in the Cotillion, in which we saw her shipping into a racetrack for the very first time in her career. Previously, all her starts had taken place on a track where she had at least been training prior to that. So this was a little bit of an experiment. Brian also, Hernandez, her regular jockey, got caught in a little bit of a blind switch as well with Flavien Prat on his outside, not wanting to let him out. And do note, he never actually touched her with the crop, finishing a neck in front of a very game Gun Song. What Torpedo Anna is also trying to do is give trainer Kenny McPeak his first win ever in a Breeders' Cup race. And if you go back and look at a article written by the DRF, interesting stat. Second only to Charlie Appleby, he does have the highest of in-the-money percentages in Breeders' Cup races, and yet still is looking for that elusive one. We'll see if Torpedo Anna can give him it. And Acacia, she is a horse that I know she probably maybe with a win, she does deserve to be Horse of the Year, but I think she's a shoo-in for the Vox Populi Award, as she has had many fans along the way to get her to this Breeders' Cup Distaff.
Couldn't agree more, Maggie. She has been so much fun this year, and getting a chance to see her run quite often as well. Torpedo Anna, the 3-year-old versus the 5-year-old, and if she does win the Breeders' Cup against older horses, I think, you know, already up to this point, it's pretty clear she's going to be champion 3-year-old filly for sure. But does it bring up a Horse of the Year conversation? It depends, you know, of course, who wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, because the 3-year-old boys is a very wide open picture. The older horses, I think, is still a bit wide open as well.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Like you said, she's an absolute lock for 3-year-old filly champion. But there's other ramifications, and it'll have to do with who winds up winning the Classic. Will one of the 3-year-olds show that they could step up and take on the boys? And admittedly, maybe our older horse division is a little bit light this year. It's going to, I mean, if a horse like City of Troy comes over and wins, doesn't that open up the door, if Torpedo Anna was to win the distaff, that she was maybe the most consistent year-round? Yeah. But looking at the record of those two, the mare Idiomatic and the filly Torpedo Anna, gems of consistency, a credit to their conditioners and their ability.
Something you love to see, and both of them with so much talent. So especially excited to get a chance to see that matchup and see if Kenny McPeek can get his first Breeders' Cup victory with a super talented filly in Torpedo Anna. There is Spring Magic, though, as she is the favorite in this upcoming 3rd race, the remaining part of the entry, and she is taking a significant drop in class since being claimed by Linda Rice. Was claimed 2 starts back at Saratoga, ran for a much tougher company last time out, and now taking that big drop.
Yeah, taking the big drop in class, turning back in distance. She wants to be involved. You get Kendrick Carmouche, who is so good at getting his position going forward. Although I think, you know, when we watch Kendrick ride, it would be incorrect. It would be a mistake to label him as one specific type of rider. He's very comfortable winning from wherever the horse is comfortable from.
On the even money favorite in this upcoming 3rd race, again, just faced so much tougher last time out with the likes of Smokin' Hot Kitty. I'm Buzzy Sedona. There he is getting a leg up on the favorite, who actually break mid-pack. Again, the remaining part of that entry. The number 5, Spiritual Lady, 3-1 right now. I thought she was a bit intriguing as she was picked up 2 starts back by Dave Donk. We don't see a ton of claims for Dave.
No, we don't, but this horse ran well on the race, comes right back for the $25,000. And in a sprint that doesn't really feature a tremendous amount of speed, I think she holds the key to this race. Spring Magic wants to be forward, but she's turning back in distance. So does that mute her speed a touch and allow Spiritual Lady to make the lead?
It's a good question as we meet the field, starting off with Spring Magic, 6-5 right now on that turn back and drop in class.
Makes a lot of sense, but she does have 2 wins, 5 seconds, and I always look at when horses start to accumulate more seconds than wins.
Here's the 2, Dolce Cero of the rail.
Yeah, it's just going to have to improve from a form that we've seen to be competitive here.
Book of Wisdom, 10-1.
Yeah, you get Christopher Elliott, who is trying to get a foothold here in New York.
Drop back down in class for Starry Midnight, who ran at this level 2 back.
Yeah, another horse, more of a deep closer, although she did have a little bit of a troubled beginning last time.
Spiritual Lady for Dave Donk, who we discussed.
I think she's very interesting because I think she could play out to be the speed of the speed. She's been showing consistent pace sprinting.
Full Moon Magic, back to the dirt for the first time in a while.
Yeah, did break her maiden on the dirt, albeit slower figures than she's run on the turf.
Balenciaga Betty gets onto a fast track.
Gets a fast track, and you know one thing with Ruben Silvera, she's going to lay up close. He is a rider that is aggressive.
Has been aggressive, and it has paid off here in New York. That's the field for race number 3. Taking a look at the 6, Full Moon Magic. She's been running long on the turf, so I feel like she kind of has some dirtied up form where I know at Parks, but her last dirt races were just against better company. And she could be a little bit interesting getting back onto the main track.
Well, I mean, obviously a lot of changes here, right? Turning back in distance as well as that change in surface. Just don't know that she's ever run a race fast enough to make her a winner here. Maybe I'm misreading it.
No, I think that's a big question too. And, a lot of those races were at the end of her 2-year-old season where she was running well. Is she a better horse now as a 3-year-old? Can she be stronger cutting back and getting onto the main track? Once again, she's 5-1 right now on the board. Full Moon Magic. For more on how she looks, though, let's go back to Maggie trackside.
Yeah, Keisha, it does feel as though, as you guys were mentioning, that Full Moon Magic is a filly that has gotten much better and feels a lot more comfortable on the turf. But I will say that she has changed a bit. I haven't seen her in quite a long time, as she hasn't run at NYRA in quite a long time. She's a lot more calm. Seems to be taking her racing much more in stride than what she was beginning her career. She's a lot stronger, especially behind the saddle. And, getting back to the main track, yes, you do see some turf in her, but I do think that keeping her at a more sprint type of distance at the 6.5 furlongs makes a lot of sense. So I'm not in love with her, but she is taking some money. So I think that should be recognized, as we'll take a look at your favorite at 3-2 is Spring Magic, who really gets some class relief. And 2 was against the racetrack last time. We're Smoking Hot Kitty. She has that early speed, but she was on the rail, whereas Spring Magic was having to press from the outside and was quite hard used to do so, and just couldn't sustain it. Now, I did note that she looked really well off the claim for Linda Rice. Today, same thing again, got a little hot in the prelim so far, but I'm not too concerned. Honestly, the most concerning thing about her is that she doesn't look like a mare that wants to run this short. She's just very long. She has a lot of range to her frame too. Now, tactically, it might suit her, but just by looking at her physically, I can't say with the most confidence that I'm really excited for her to get back and run at 6.5 furlongs. Now, number 5, Spiritual Lady, as you guys were honing in on, as likely to be the main speed in here, and I think that's really correct. She jumped into the bridle quite aggressively for Jose Gomez, who took her away from the pony. Loved the energy she displayed out in the racetrack. Is one that I wish carried a little bit more weight and conditioning, but otherwise looks really healthy, especially in her coat. So I think she makes a lot of sense as an alternative to your favorite. Acacia?
Yeah, she's interesting, Maggie. Thank you. 5-2 on Spiritual Lady, who 2 starts back when she won for 16. The top 2 finishers, Spiritual Lady and Devil Blue Dress, kind of laid over the field. They were significant class droppers. They ran 1-2, and so stepping up to 25,000 last time out might really have been kind of where she belonged, and could be a prudent claim for Dave that she is able to run well and competitively at this level.
Over the years, we've consistently seen horses drop down to win in Saratoga, and it has been a place where a lot of claiming goes on, because horsemen identifying that, hey, I might be able to get a $25,000 horse for $16,000 in this particular instance. Everybody places such a premium on winning in Saratoga that there are bargains to be had. Now, it's interesting, right? Spring Magic, your favorite, turning back in distance. Maggie talked about it from a physical perspective. And Spiritual Lady. Spring Magic's a 5-year-old. Spiritual Lady's a 3-year-old. Is this a dress rehearsal for what we're going to see with Idiomatic and Torpedo Anna? Can the 3-year-old handle the 5-year-old?
Different levels, but yes, that
trying
is
to connect the dots here.
I see what you did there. You brought it all back. I like it. So the 3-year-old versus the 5-year-old, kind of the 2 taking the most attention. As far as the 6, Full Moon Magic, who we heard comments from Maggie on, back now as a 3-year-old. What are your thoughts on her getting back to the dirt?
Well, I think this is something that you have to look at, and not just in this situation, in a lot of situations this time of year, horses that have been running on the turf and running well on the turf, trying the dirt. Even though she's getting back to dirt, she has dirt races in the past. I think connections have to start thinking when you get to October with a horse that's been running well on turf, what am I going to do with this horse for the winter? I need to try her on the dirt again, see if she can be competitive. Then do I continue to run her on the dirt on the East Coast, or do I send her to Tampa Bay or Gulfstream to run on turf down there, or give her the winter off? So I always proceed with caution with horses getting off the turf this time of year, because I just think it's connections experimenting to make a decision on what they'll do with that horse for the winter.
I think it's such a good point to bring up, especially here for horsemen that have Stalls year-round in New York, running throughout the winter. No turf racing offered. Last year with some nice weather, we were able to run pretty long for the turf season, but it comes to an end eventually and then doesn't pick up again until April.
Yeah, I mean, if we're lucky, we'll get into maybe early December with turf racing. But, you got to make plans and you got to make decisions. And I just think you see a lot of this time of year. Say, okay, we've got to figure out what the next and most prudent move for this horse is.
An excellent point to bring up for this time of year with crazy to think about it, but turf racing starting to wind down as we get closer to those colder temperatures.
Well, we'll get the tarps on the turf course, so they'll have that brilliant green when we do reopen them in the spring. And before long, they'll be covered in snow.
Not looking forward to those days. It's gorgeous today, so we're going to enjoy this lovely weather this afternoon on this October fall weekend.
I love snow. I love the change of seasons, though. I really appreciate that we get to enjoy all of that in the New York area.
I like looking at snow on camera.
You'd rather
like
sitting by a
it.
fireplace with a hot cocoa, looking at the snow.
I don't do well when it goes below 60 degrees. I love fall, though, my favorite season. Loading in for race number 3. Snow will be here before we know it. Crazy to think about. Race 3 coming up next, though. Belmont at the Big A. Chris Griffin has the call.
Balenciaga Betty, last to load to the outside. And in. All set. And they're off. Spiritual Lady breaks on top and right to the outside. Here's Full Moon Magic to join this leader. Spring Magic is now hustled along at 4 across the racetrack with Balenciaga Betty. These 4 across the track as they duke it out early in that early opening quarter. Back there in 5th comes Book of Wisdom, the 2 at the back. Starry Midnight with the trailer. Dolce Seta. Spring Magic had to work to get to the lead, but is now up by a half length. Mild pressure now from Spiritual Ladies in the 2-path. 3 wide there is Full Moon Magic. 4 wide, Balenciaga Betty. No choice but to be wide with less than 4 furlongs to go. Moving forward is Book of Wisdom. Ground saving journey at the rail from 5th. From the back, Starry Midnight, the trailer. Dolce Seta. They're chasing Spring Magic and Kendra Carmouche, still up by a half length. Spiritual Ladies been there the entire journey. In behind them, Book of Wisdom was watching the early tempo, and Book of Wisdom is going to follow that lane as Spring Magic is still the leader, approaching a quarter mile left to go. Nowhere to go yet for Book of Wisdom at the rail. Here's Spiritual Lady to the outside. Balenciaga Betty trying to pick it up, and Full Moon Magic. They still chase Spring Magic, who's in front. It's Spring Magic who's up by a full length, trying to collect this leader, and now in the clear, Full Moon Magic, and Full Moon Magic now bursts to the front. Full Moon Magic has taken the lead. Spring Magic is back to second. Far outside is Starry Midnight. But Full Moon Magic, Samuel Marin got the clear running room, and they get the victory. It's Full Moon Magic to win it. Then Spring Magic, late run there, was Starry Midnight.
Well, it turns out that Full Moon Magic can handle both turf and dirt as she gets back to the main track today and gets to the winner's circle.
A really nice ride, a nice trip here. Got that inside out, pocket move, slid in between horses, and got it done. A consensus pace between the 1 Spring Magic and the 5 Spiritual Lady. But the connections of Full Moon Magic, well, they've got options now, and I don't think they have to worry about if they want to ship someplace. Dig in, and she showed to be very proficient on the dirt.
Absolutely. 1 on the turf, 3 starts back, and a couple of in the money finishes, now winning on the main track today as well. First off, the claim for Jose Sanchez, getting the victory at 9-2. And it was an aggressive ride on your favorite, the 1 Spring Magic. There she is in the blue cap in the front, and just run down late. She just was second best.
Yeah, second best. I think Kendra Carmouche did the right thing here. You've got a horse turning back from 1 mile races to the sprint distance of 6.5. I'm going to try to count on her stamina being able to see it through, but I think a perfect trip winner who was very good on the day. And what a good claim from Jose Sanchez. Takes this horse for 16, change a whole bunch of things. Distance, surface, moves up in company, and gets it done.
Yeah, she does at 9-2, 6-1, and a photo for third that will go to the number 4 in here, Starry Midnight. 6-1, 4-7 in race 3, Belmont at the Big A. We'll bring you prices in a moment. We'll also look back to last weekend with the Grade 1 2-year-old races. It's pretty competitive in the 2-year-old divisions, and there's one of the leaders right now, Chancellor McPatrick. Scottish Lassie breaking her maiden in style in the Frazette. We'll take a look back at those races after this.
The classic looks of a two-turn type, yet the precocious brilliance of an undefeated G1 2-year-old.
Maxfield, a breathtaking run at the top of the stretch.
Maxfield. He took it to the max in his chosen field. Now you need a mini Maxfield in your chosen field. His first yearlings are selling now. Maxfield. Classic looks and precocious brilliance. Darley.
We're back on America's Day at the races as we see Full Moon Magic head into the winner's circle. Ridden to victory by Samuel Marin. And a lot of changes for this filly by Malibu Moon, but it seems that they all worked out. Let's go down to Maggie in the winner's circle.
Yeah, please be joined here by winning rider Samuel Marin. And Samuel, we saw just a perfect trip with Full Moon Magic, a filly that you're familiar with, but more on the turf. Talk a little bit about her getting back to the main track today.
I mean, she's been working really good in the door. You know, last couple of times we've been working on it. She actually broke her mane on the door. And I was like, we were talking, the trainer and I, we were talking about it, and I was like, well, let's just try it about, see if it just work out for us. And, you know, she can handle the both track, which is great, you know. And so we're really excited. I'm glad everything worked out for us like that.
Yeah, it really did. And a great trip, too, kind of stalking. And when those horses kind of parted, you seized the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I actually knew that I had a lot horse. I did have, so I was like, I wasn't worried about the 7 horse, which was outside of my horse. So I was just waiting for see if I could get a little run inside, and it just opened up like that, and we got through.
Now, we've seen you be a presence at Monmouth and obviously going back to Tampa this winter, but your first winner here at the Big A in New York. Haven't had that many starts, but pretty cool to win here, right?
Yeah, it's just great. I love it. I mean, I would love to keep riding around here. It's just a great track, and I'm grateful with everybody who's been helping me, you know.
Well done, you. Congratulations here.
Thank you very much.
All right, Samuel Marin really has done great over the summers at Monmouth, but gets his first Aqueduct win here, Acacia, with Full Moon Magic.
And hopefully the first of many. Big congratulations to Samuel Marin, who gets the victory here. He's running for, as Maggie said, plenty of big outfits at Monmouth, down at Tampa Bay Downs as well. Actually rode Bookham Dano to victory at Tampa for Derek Ryan before he went over to Saudi.
Yeah, how about that? And this is his 73rd win of the year, his 171st win of his career. He started in 2022, and Aqueduct has always been a proving ground for young riders trying to get their foothold in New York, whether they're an apprentice rider or a journeyman who has been established on another circuit. They come here this time of year and see if they can catch on, and then dig in and stay when the colony is, full, when everybody comes back from their winter quarters.
See how the next couple of months go, and as Richie said, always exciting to see a lot of up-and-coming jockeys here. Up-and-coming horses, though, we saw plenty of two-year-old stakes last weekend here in New York and elsewhere. But taking a look at the Frizette, what a performance from Scottish Lassie for her to break her maiden. I know that it was a bit disappointing to see Senza Parole scratching. I think it's fair to question, would she have beaten Scottish Lassie with the way that she ran, a horse that her trainer Jorge Abreu, who picked up her first graded stakes win this day, had thought so highly of right from the beginning.
Yeah, this affiliate took a lot of money on debut. Was a little bit disappointing that day, but the confidence they had in her was justified. This was a huge effort. She was only 0.22 slower than Chancellor Patrick, roughly a fifth of a second. Big, long, kind of scopy, rangy filly that...
Big, long stride to her.
Yeah, she's really efficient by McKenzie, as Chancellor McPatrick is as well. And nice to see Jose Lezcano get a mount like this. Somebody that rides consistently so well every day, but sometimes gets overlooked when it comes to the bigger races. Well, he's going to the main dance with seemingly the prom queen.
I like that. As you saw there, first graded stakes win for Jorge Abreu. He nearly got it in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year with Jody's Pride to finish second. And then this year he's going to be going to the Breeders' Cup with one of the favorites with Scottish Lassie, who was so dominant. And I know that, he was so emotional afterwards because he'd been close in graded stakes without actually getting that win, and so rewarding to see all of that hard work paying off in that big moment.
To be honest, I was surprised by that because he's had so much great success and he does such a tremendous job. Both Jorge Abreu and his brother Fernando, terrific horsemen, people I've known basically my whole life on the backstretch. So I'm really happy for him because it's very well deserved. And I like to see hard work rewarded. And that was a culmination of a lot of hard work.
And a two-year-old filly that he picked out, had high hopes for all along, and turns out he was right. She's the goods. She was impressive in the Frizette. A two-year-old filly that has a little bit more foundation, though, and accomplishments is in Immersive, who we saw win the Spinaway closing weekend and then come back to win the Alcibiades. I know that her figure was not nearly as quick in this Alcibiades victory. I still think she's very talented, Richie.
She's very talented. I almost feel like she maybe hit the front and got just a touch lost on her own. They're young horses. They are herd animals. And she kept on holding off as a quick kick from our friend and colleague, Tom Amos, who failed to change leads. But never felt like she was going to get by. Like, there was always that answer by Immersive, and she also has a win around 2 turns, and the Breeders' Cup will be run around 2 turns.
She does. A little bit more of that foundation, kind of coming along slowly. Broke her maiden first out at Saratoga, then won the Spinaway on a very wet track, and then winning the Alcibiades for Manny Franco. And he was fired up after that Spinaway win, too. It was pretty cool to see. A little bit calmer this last time with Immersive in the Alcibiades, but a filly that has a big future as well for Brad Cox.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing we've seen consistently from Brad Cox, when he gets a horse in a good form cycle, they hold that form cycle. And I think that is what differentiates Brad as a horseman. Sometimes horses will run big for one trainer and then come up with a lackluster or less than stellar effort. It seems like with Brad, his horses consistently show up.
Well, Chancellor McPatrick, though, as far as the boys are concerned, Maggie, he is one who was so impressive last time and just has gears with that big closing kick we saw last weekend.
He really does, Acacia, and what a start McKenzie has gotten off to, as you touched on, with both of his progeny taking down our Breeders' Cup preps for the 2-year-olds. Now, he's going to get a little bit of pace to run at here, and I got to give a little bit of a tip of the hat to Tip Top Thomas, who was a part of that early pace and hung around for second for Todd Pletcher. But Chancer McPatrick, want to see him displaying his usual lack of early foot, but then he launches this 3-wide bid to get up to contention by nearly the quarter pole and is able to sustain it. So you would have to think that while he's going to go 2 turns for the first time, this was a horse that has overcome, and not that he had any adversity here, but has overcome adversity in the past. So you know that he's a little bit more battle tested. So he does have to answer that 2-turn question for the first time in the Breeders' Cup, but there isn't a doubt in my mind that he can handle it quite easily. And a horse that isn't that flashy, but just when you look at him physically, but just incredibly athletic and very honest, very true. And we've seen that on display as he's gone 3 for 3 in his career so far, and a horse that, you know, connections were high on from the beginning, much like the horse for Jorge Abreu in Scottish Lassie. I remember him telling me about her before the meet even began, and it feels like both of these heading into the Breeders' Cup in the right kind of way. I love these 2-year-old races, Acacia, because it really kind of susses out who might be a future star, who could just be the best of their generation as 2-year-olds, but still so much hope and promise on the table as we head into the Breeders' Cup.
A lot to look forward to. The future is very bright as we see the list of hopeful Champagne double winners. Quite a group there. Chancer McPatrick doing it this year. Before him was Jackie's Warrior, Practical Joke. He's in some pretty good company.
Very good company. And the thing that differentiates Chancer McPatrick than a lot of 2-year-olds, he's a closer. And it's harder for 2-year-olds that don't have the experience with the kickback and negotiating traffic. And he showed that on debut, coming from off the pace, overcoming adversity, showing that dimension. A lot of times we see young horses, you know, just run gate to wire. They have a lot of natural ability, they have speed, but you don't learn a lot about them. We learned about Chancer McPatrick pretty early on.
Yeah, we certainly did with that impressive maiden score for owner Sean Flanagan. This horse named after his son, Patrick. As you can see, he is very much enjoying the ride with this promising 2-year-old. Over at Keeneland, though, in the Breeders' Futurity, we saw East Avenue and Ferocious running 1-2. I think after Ferocious and his dominant score first time out, there were such high hopes for him. He now has 2 second-place finishes in the Breeders' Futurity, as well as in the hopeful at the end of Saratoga. East Avenue besting him in here. Do you think it was second best, or can you make some excuses for him?
Well, I feel like he was second best.
Yes.
But now that being said, you got to worry a little bit about how he acted at the gate.
Again.
Right? Yeah. And that's a little disturbing to me because, you know, he was so professional on debut, and then to act that way makes you feel like that first race shook him up. We talk about that a great deal. Man, the winner's got such a lovely floating stride, though, and winning with something left.
Absolutely. Very impressive East Avenue for Brendan Walsh. Second best from Ferocious. A horse who was drawn to the rail at first asking, broke a bit slowly. First time out, kind of rushing up. Last time out in the hopeful, looked like he was done, kind of re-rallying a bit late. And then last time out, drawn to the inside again. I'm sure they're hoping moving forward he does not draw the rail post position. East Avenue, though, kind of getting that forward position and pulling away from his competition, looking like a colt with a big future as well.
I love that isolated, that close-up shot of him. He just ears pricking back and forth. And a horse is winning quite comfortably when a rider starts patting them before they actually even hit the wire. And I like to see that. I'd rather see the riders pat on the horses and reinforce their affection for them as opposed to jumping up and down and waving their crop. It's not about you. It's about you and your dance partner, and your horse is your dance partner.
East Avenue was impressive, and we'll get a chance to see him match up with Chancellor McPatrick. Here's a look at the Breeders' Cup Friday schedule. Future Stars Friday, you have all of the juvenile races on Friday. These are Eastern Post times, so we'll get a chance to see all of those fun races lining up on Friday for the 2-year-olds. Will be a lot of fun to get a chance to see who takes that step forward, as Maggie mentioned, with these young horses and their bright futures ahead. Mandatory payout pick 5 coming up in race 4 here Belmont at the Big A, though. That's a look at horses in the paddock coming up for this next race. Rider Special taking a drop in class. More on him after this.
And they're off in the Grade 1 4-go. And it's going to be Yopon who gets to the wire first. The 7 furlongs in 1:21 and 3. The leader is Yopon. 6 furlongs in 1 minute 8 and 2/5 seconds.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With NyraBets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with NyraBets. Join now for a new member bonus at NyraBets.com.
Looking for bloodstock that shapes the world? You can find it here. Foundation mares that will shape the breed. Weanlings with prime potential. Your next moment in the winner's circle. It's all waiting for you here at the world's marketplace. Keeneland November breeding stock sale, where the future is found. Beginning Tuesday, November 5th.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
And here's Bookham Dano, who has blown by them all. Prince of Monaco takes up the chase, and in the center of the racetrack with a big run is Imagination. Imagination eating up the ground on Bookham Dano. Prince of Monaco in between. It's going to get very close. Bookham Dano holds off an oncoming Prince of Monaco.
Bookham Dano was so fun and game in the 2024 Woody Stevens this summer, as we'll get a chance to see Derek Ryan and Atlantic 6 Racing in this upcoming 4th race here with Charging Arrow first off the claim. And I know that this little New Jersey bred in Bookham Dano has been so much fun for the teams. They followed him along and around the world.
What a nice horse, and what an adventure he's taken his ownership and Derek Ryan on. Consistent, hard knocking, shows up, gives you that effort. And this was some effort from post 1 to be able to overcome that post. What a ride by Irad Ortiz Jr. He is just a really easy horse to like and root for.
He certainly is, as we saw digging in that Woody Stevens. Incredibly game performance during that Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. There is jockey Maddie Olver getting a leg up in those familiar silks of Atlantic 6 Racing with Charging Arrow, who's first off the claim, and a horse that's been in good form, stepping up in class after winning his last 2.
He has been in good form, and looking for his 3rd win in a row, his 8th win overall. And Maddie Olver, you can't overstate how difficult it is when you lose your apprentice allowance and you have to ride at equal weights. A lot of times you get passed over. She has made the transition well. She had a nice, successful Monmouth Park summer, and it looks like now she's going to come back and dig in here again in New York.
Meeting the field, starting off with the remaining part of the entry, the 1A, Kunshin Bridge.
Another horse dropping in class, and drop is just what the doctor ordered.
The 2B remaining part of the entry, Ryan's Cat, will break towards the outside.
A horse that when he's good, the 7-year-old shows very high speed, and they've got a 7-pound apprentice in Chris Elliott.
This horse has the rail, the 3 Papa Rocket.
Yeah, also dropping down in class for Rob Atras, who's very dangerous with that move.
Big price on the 4 Bourbon's Hope.
Yeah, Eduardo Jones's horses usually look really good. This horse is going to have to find one of his better races.
Atlantic 6 Racing and Derek Ryan with Charging Arrow. There's the 6 Nolo Contesto first off the claim.
Yeah, also for Rob Atras, claim for 16, right back in for 16. That start, race 3 back, would put this horse really in the frame.
The 7 Pogie going by. Here is the 8 Can't Beat the Rock.
Can't Beat the Rock, David Jacobson, get Ruben Silveira, so you know this horse is going to get an aggressive ride.
And current favorite, Linda Rice with Rider Special.
Well, a lot to like. Outside draw, dropping in class, Kendrick for Linda Rice. This horse looks pretty formidable from that outside post.
Clean for $25,000 back in June. Finished a good second, 2 starts back, running against tougher starter Allowance Company last time. Getting a big warm-up on the track. A horse who, as you said, plenty to like, especially at that drop-in class. This is the lowest that he will have ever run for.
No, and last time he faced the likes of Dillinger, who we saw run earlier in the card, a close second. Dillinger would lay over this field, wouldn't he? Now, this horse was, you know, well beaten by Dillinger, but I think you've got to look at company lines and what they faced. I wish kind of jump in the bit just a little bit more in his warm-up.
Agreed. 5-2 right now on Riders Special. For more on the rest of this field, let's go to Maggie Treckside.
Yeah, same when it comes to Rider Special, and I could be wrong, but I feel like he was a scratch a couple times up in Saratoga, as we do see Rider Special coming back, and not one I'm jumping in to take at a short price. But let's start by talking about number 5, as we touched on Derek Ryan earlier when we took a look at this race, but he took Charging Arrow last time from Fernando Abreu, who really had figured this horse out, and part of that success came when Fernando put an extension blinker on this horse. Now, as I often say, about 80% of the time, it doesn't work. Though there's 20%, like it did with Charging Arrow, where it clearly did. And he comes back today off the claim not wearing that. He's just wearing a pair of short cup cheater blinkers. And I don't know. I feel like when something works, stick with it. So we'll see what he does here. He is 5-1 as he does take a slight step back up in class. The horse that looked best to me overall is another horse that was claimed off Fernando Abreu, who his horses really were running well up at Saratoga, but Nolo Contesto did not. So yeah, maybe this is a bad pick by me, but I just thought Critical Threat really kind of ran away and hid from that field where he was set on this 4 to 5 wide chase throughout and really just didn't have anything left. Now, I think he honestly looks best in this field. Could I be, you know, falling for fool's gold? Possibly. But just watching him warm up, watching him in the paddock, he looks sensational. He's a horse that I have liked in the past, so he does always kind of present himself well. But I thought that Rob Atras maybe could get this guy back in good form. I don't know. It's not like the barn's really doing that well at the moment, but sometimes that tide changes before you know it. I'm going to give him another shot here, Acacia, because I just wasn't overly thrilled with 8-5 on Rider Special.
And just seeing now, Maggie, that the 9 Rider Special, who was not warming up well, will be a late scratch here. Kendrick Carmouche has his tack, so another favorite getting a late scratch here will change things as far as the betting. Kendrick Carmouche going to get a ride back, so Rider Special, a late scratch here in race number 4, so that does certainly change things here, Richie, as far as making it much more wide open.
I think it's very wide open. It seems like now the 6 will wind up your favorite, Nolo Contesto. Does it benefit? I mean, obviously you're taking the favorite out, but from a strategy standpoint, this horse was going to be in more of a stalking position anyway. Do you see any scenario where the 2B, Ryan's Cat, gets loose and maybe just never gets caught?
I do think it's possible. The Wayne Potts horses have been running. He has the layoff to contend with in here. 2 starts back, ran quite well. First time in Wayne's barn, has plenty of early speed. I think it's a possibility that you do have to take a look at, because it's, once again, it's a dirt sprint race that there's not a kind of clear-cut pace setter. So that would, I imagine, be Christopher Elliott's best plan of attack.
And I think it's a perfect horse for a trainer to put a 7-pound apprentice on, because you're taking advantage of getting that break in the weights, and it's not like a young rider has to make a lot of decisions on a speed horse. You just get out of their way and let them do what comes natural.
7-2 favorite now, tepid on Nolo Contesto. Take a look at the 1A Kunshan Bridge, who you have some interest in, Richie. This is a few races back for a horse that back in June finished second, a distant second, yes, but second behind Jefferson Street. Just facing so much better company recently. Did drop for the 32,000 last time, and another drop today.
I just think he's getting into a field that's going to complement his abilities. You know, it's sometimes what the old adage is, right? You keep yourself in the best of company and your horses in the worst of company. I just think he's getting into a spot that's going to be much easier than what he's been facing recently, and he has races in the not too distant past that would make him very, very tough here.
Yeah, he is a player, and he's a generous price, the 1A, as he is the remaining part of the entry in here. Faced Secret Rules last time. He would come back to win again with an 85 Beyer speed figure. What about the number 7, Poggy? I thought this horse a little bit intriguing with some dirtied up form, facing New Jersey bred Allowance Company recently, but a horse that's getting back on the NYRA circuit and does have some races to go back on. I know not a winning type, but maybe one that kind of flying beneath the radar for a hot barn.
I think a horse that certainly has ability to be very contentious here, but that 3 wins, 10 seconds always completely turns me off. It just feels like when a horse accumulates that many more seconds and wins, there had to be situations where maybe they could have gotten the win, and maybe they're just not as aggressive to be the herd leader when it gets to crunch time.
6-1 right now on that horse. The number 5, Charging Arrow. Maggie discussed the equipment that this horse had run in with his previous connections. Now first off the claim for Derek Ryan, and an extension blinker that completely covers one eye sometimes can be like kind of putting a Band-Aid on, but sometimes can really help a horse to kind of run straighter, be a bit more focused. And then there are some horsemen that just don't believe in that type of equipment. So sometimes you will see changes just based off of going to another barn.
I am not the biggest fan of extension blinkers. You know, the conventional wisdom behind an extension blinker is a horse won't run to where they can't see. That's not true. It's just, it's a fallacy. And I would rather have my horse have more vision and let me handle them. Let me try to figure out what I need to do to get them to run straight. And I'd rather have a Houghton bit with no blinker than an extension blinker. It just, to me, almost inhibits a horse's natural ability to see everything around them. A horse has peripheral vision for a reason. Right. And even in the starting gate, if a horse has got their head turned slightly, if they had an outside extension blinker to the left, they miss the break. Horse has to see the break coming. Now, the gate crews know this, the riders know this, but sometimes it's not always easy to execute a horse seeing the break properly.
So that extension blinker coming off of Charging Arrow. See what he can do for the new connections in this spot. Favoritism shifting over to the 6 Nolo Contesto with the late scratch of the 9 Riders Special. Race 4 coming up. Belmont at the Big A. Here's Chris Griffin.
And Can't Beat the Rock. Last to load to the outside. And in. All set. And they're off. Kunshan Bridge breaks very well, so does Charging Arrow in between horses. Bourbon's Hope is in the early mix. They line up once again on the front end. There are 6 across the racetrack. Here comes Nolo Contesto is 4 wide. 5 wide is going to be Ryan's Cat, and now the one taking off the pace is going to be Ruben Silvera, and Can't Beat the Rock is drafting right in behind a leading quintet. Second to last is Poggy, and far back the trailer, Papa Rocket. Less than 4 furlongs to travel, a pressured early pace as Bourbon's Hope has got a head in front. In the 2-pass still is Charging Arrow, and now here comes a move towards the outside. Ryan's Cat is progressing with Nolo Contesto. It's now 3 across the racetrack as Bourbon's Hope has lost some ground at the rail. Just tipping to the outside of that rival's Poggi, and Poggi is now in it behind a battling trio. Kunshin Bridge is trying to make up some late ground 4 wide. They reach the top of the stretch, less than a quarter mile to go, and Charging Arrow's found more. It's Charging Arrow who's right there, trying to push on by as Nolo Contesto, and now here comes Kunshin Bridge and Manny Franco. They're rolling, and from far out of it, Papa Rocket was the trailer. Papa Rocket's made up a ton of ground. It's Kunshin Bridge who's in front. Papa Rocket catching with every stride. A 16th left to go. Kunshin Bridge is still there. Kunshin Bridge by a half length. Kunshin Bridge will hold off Papa Rocket. Kunshin Bridge wins it over Papa Rocket. Then came a photo for third.
Kunshin Bridge with the victory, and the drop in class did get the setup, and a nice top pick by Richie.
Yeah, really good setup and a great ride by Manny Franco. So strong. It looked as though the 3 Papa Rocket was going to have his measure. Now, Papa Rocket got to lugging in a little bit with Jose Lezcano. And watch Manny just subtly come out to meet the challenge. And when a horse is lugging in a little bit under a rider like Jose Lezcano in this situation, that little bit of movement to the outside to meet that challenge inhibits your ability to ride the horse as freely as you want. You can see him trying to lug in a little bit here. But Kunshin Bridge, very game with a strong ride. Nice to see Ilke Cantermazzi get the job done. And Kunshin Bridge, the longest bridge in the world at 104 miles in Beijing.
Wow. How
See the
about that?
things you learn
I know.
on America's Day at the Races?
We love the trivia. Kunshin Bridge with the victory for Ilkay Cantermazzi, as we talked about the company that this horse has just been facing, and couldn't get the job done last time, but it's another drop in class in here, a secondary drop, and it just helped putting him in the spot where he belongs. It's kind of hard sifting through form when he's just been running against too tough, and maybe this is just where he belongs.
Yeah, I think he just found the right group of horses. And, you know, being a successful horse trainer is about as much about your horsemanship as it is about managing horses and putting them in races that they can excel at. And I think that was the case here. Kunshin Bridge was just very well placed.
1A at 6-1. Richie's top pick getting the victory here in the 4th. The 3 Papa Rocket checking in 2nd, and a photo for 3rd. Prices and more when we come back. Stay with us on America's Day at the Races.
Spine-tingling, jaw-dropping, awe-inspiring, Secretariat-like.
We're back on America's Day at the races. Race 4 in the books went to Kunshan Bridge for Ilkay Kantarmasi, Manny Franco heading into the winner's circle. And this guy just found his friends on the drop-in class.
Yeah, very well spotted. Good job by Ilkay getting this win. And he rallied up another horse, 4, 5 wide, pretty much the entirety of the turn. But he kept coming with this determined run. And this is where, when we talk about strong finishers, and Manny Franco is extremely strong, this is a clear illustration of that. Here comes Papa Rocket making his run on the outside, lugging in a little bit under Jose Lezcano, doing everything he can to keep his horse straight. And here comes Manny, comes out to meet the challenge and holds him off. That's when a rider makes a difference.
$15.60 winner, 6-1 on Kunshan Bridge over Papa Rocket, and it was Nolo Contesto checking in third in that photo finish. And Ilkay Kantarmasi, of course, taking over for his brother Matt Kant, took a step away from training, and I loved what he said to you. We're the same cake, just a different piece.
I thought that was a beautiful way to frame it. And, you know, listen, they've been such huge supporters of each other, and they're so close. And Ilkay has been an integral part of that operation all along. So now he's down as trainer of record, but he's been involved from the jump.
Next in the 5th is our America's Best Racing race of the week, the Grade 2 Sands Point, 1 mile and an 1/8 on the turf for the 3-year-old fillies. And you've got a couple of horses at 3-1 between Spaladay and Style Points, and that's just kind of how this race is. Mo Fox given actually 3-1 as well. It's just kind of how this race is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very competitive, and I can make a case, you know, for some other horses in here as well. But, you know, when you have 3 horses at 3-1 in a race like this, you just know it's an extremely competitive heat. And turf racing comes down to trips.
Absolutely. And with the 1 mile and an 1/8 distance as well, Spaladay will be stretching out for the first time, coming off of a 4th place finish in the Lake Placid for Chad Brown. She's one of 2 in here, kind of got that great trip to win the Boiling Springs 2 starts back. And while it's not a huge difference from the 1 mile and 1/16 to the 1 mile and an 1/8 as far as the distance is concerned, it could be a totally different ballpark for some horses.
Absolutely. You know, and particularly, you know, we're talking about a horse like the 4, Makanga, who's turning back in distance, who has an overabundance of speed. She wants to do too much. But a lot of times people say, well, it's only 110 yards difference, you know, from 1 mile and 16 to 1 mile and 1/8.
Yeah.
The races are run differently. I think riders are more conscious of the fact that they got to go a little further, and they'll be just a little bit quieter, a little bit maybe more tentative in the early running.
As far as Style Points does go, she won at the 1 mile and an 1/8 last time out. She's actually had a victory at 1 mile and 3/16, so distance no problem for her. There's the field walking over for the Grade 2 Sands Point. More on this field when we come back on America's Day at the Races.
Every sire hopes to have a son to follow in his footsteps.
An impressive debut.
For Munnings, that son is Jack Christopher.
Jack Christopher to win the Champagne.
Unbeaten Grade 1 winner at 2. Dual Grade 1 winner at 3.
And he is pouring it on here. It is Jack Christopher winning the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins Memorial.
Jack Christopher, standing at Coolmore, America.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. americasbestracing.net is a sport for you.
Who's still a nose in front. Kourou is lifting late as well. Better Lucky Than Good at the rail. Better Lucky Than Good. Kourou, Better Lucky Than Good wins the finale.
Welcome to Adelphi Racing Club's unparalleled partnership experience. Exclusive access to the backstretch at Belmont and Saratoga, premier accommodations on race day, and of course, experience excitement like no other. Contact us today to get a taste of the Adelphi difference.
New York breds. Race them.
Respect them.
Bet them.
Respect them.
Breed them.
Respect them.
Buy them.
Respect them.
Train them for a second career.
Respect them. Join us in respecting thoroughbreds at every stage of life. Learn more at nybreds.com.
The post, the barrier, the stalls, the iron monster, the starting gate. There are so many key and important times in a race where jockeys have to make quick decisions, when to move, when to sit, wait behind horses. But to me, one of the most critical times in a race is leaving the starting gate. If you don't break cleanly, you can get shuffled back, taken out of position, and it's hard to get a horse in a good rhythm. Starts are so important. I want you to know what goes on inside the starting gate. Come on with me.
What we doing? Hey, wait for the truck. All right. Yeah.
Key to breaking sharp from the gate is having your horse warmed up, alert, but settled. You want them relaxed. We got a great gate crew here in New York, and they know all the horses, their habits, what to expect. Put them in the gate, get them square, looking down the track, and be ready to go.
Try to get as relaxed as I can on my horse before we go in the gate. And once I get in there, I want to let him walk in and take a deep breath and make sure the gate guy get up, because I want to make sure he starts setting his feet correctly. And you know, the ones that's going to sit in there and be still, but I just want to keep it as relaxed as I can going into the gate with the horse, where the horse can feel like he's going to do his job. I'm going to just stay out of his way.
You get one that cuts right to the gate, sometimes they'll balk. It's a kind of a closed space. Some horses are a little claustrophobic. Important to pick up your feet so you don't get your legs caught on the side of the gate. You could feel their energy. Sometimes you'll feel their heartbeat beating on your leg. Again, want to keep them relaxed, settled, get them square. The assistant starters are so good at getting the horse nice and balanced. Sometimes you get one that's leaning a little too far, you'll take your leg, push off the petition, get them where you want them to be. Looking down the racetrack, all four legs square on the ground. Last horse gets ready to go in, you're going to take your half cross, take a piece of mane, one hand, other hand free in case horse breaks left or right, you can correct them, and you're going to be leaving here in a hurry.
Well, a lot of people wait on the guys to say one out to get all set and ready. You know, I'm not, you know, you can hear the guy say one out, but I'm mostly paying attention to the guy with the button. That's how I break so fast out the gate, you know. I'm a button guy, you know. Or I listen to the last door sound and the button. And after that, early position wins the race most of the time.
So many moving parts that make a horse break well or break poorly. It's important to have great communication between the rider and the assistant starters, as well as the official starter, and working with the trainers to make sure that if a horse is a little bit nervous, they school them, they get them where they're relaxed around the gate. It's not always the horse that's the most keyed up that breaks the best. It's the horse that's alert and settled and balanced in the gate. Then you can leave the gate in a hurry.
You're watching America's Day at the Races, brought to you by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, visit americasbestracing.net today. Thanks to those of you joining us on FS1. Acacia, come on alongside Richard Migliori as you're just tuning in the right time. We have the Grade 2 Sands Point coming up in just a few minutes, Richie, for the 3-year-old fillies going long on the turf, and it's a very evenly matched field with several kind of around that 3-to-1 range, and that's kind of how these 3-year-old fillies are. Who's going to take a step forward?
Yeah, I think this is a terrific betting race because there's a lot of different directions you can go, and it'll come down to trips. I'm interested in a little bit of a different horse in the 4 Makenga, but I just think that turning back from the 1 3/8, she has a tendency to rank. Maybe it takes a little bit of that aggressive edge off of her.
It is our America's Best Racing race of the week. Here's a look at the field with current odds. Spaladay and Style Points both vying for favoritism. The 4 Makenga, as you mentioned, though, she's been kind of running off in her last couple of races, but that's been going longer, 1 3/8 and 1 3/16. Her last win did come at 1 1/16, so maybe it is a little bit of the sweet spot.
Well, also too, just the turn back from 1 mile and 3 furlongs. You know, sometimes it does just take a little bit of that edge because we've seen she wants to be too aggressive. She's not a horse that wants to listen to the rider. She wants to do things her own way. At the end of the day, Acacia, these are 1,000-pound animals, and I don't care how strong a rider is. If they really want to go, they're going to go.
Amen to that. There is trainer Christophe Clement who just sent out Style Points, who dead heated to win the Virginia Oaks last time out. She was very game in this effort with Deep Satin, who has quality as well. They were noses up and down coming on the line, but this is a filly who distance we know is no problem for her, but she is a closing type.
Closing type comes with that kind of relentless. I mean, she just stays at it. I think she has a bit of a longer run than most horses that normally you see. And this was on full display here, the win in the Virginia Oaks, or the dead heat, obviously still a win. Manny Franco, 7 wins in one day on one card. The most ever won in one day was 6, but it was 4 in New York and 2 at the Meadowlands. It wasn't even at one racetrack.
Just incredible. What an afternoon that was. Joel Rosario will be aboard Style Points for the first time today. Let's head down. Welcoming Maggie Wolfendale, getting a look at these horses in the paddock for the Sands Point. What are you seeing, Maggie?
Well, Acacia, it looks like the favorites are the 2 to beat. And here is Spaladay. She looks fantastic, but let's pick up where you guys just left off with number 6 in here. That's Style Points, a filly that I haven't seen in a while. It's only the second start at a NYRA racetrack. But I thought she was impressive as a 2-year-old, and it's continued along now into this late portion of her 3-year-old campaign. She's long, she's scopy, she looks powerful. Now, she's accompanied by the pony, but I think that has been her MO throughout her career. She's not nervous, at least here in the paddock. She seems awfully relaxed and well adjusted to having the pony walking around in front of her. I really liked the way that she finished that last race, the Virginia Oaks, and she's kind of had a few stops and starts along the way here in 2024, and maybe pairing those races now back to back will do the world of good, and maybe find a little bit more out of her, because she really had a nice kick down the lane to dead heat with the favorite in that Virginia Oaks. Moving on to number 4, Makanga, as you guys said and touched on, she's been a bit rank and keen in her last 2, going longer. Now, while I do like the cutback in distance, and I wasn't in the paddock, Acacia, I believe you were, one of you were up there for the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational. She is a lot more settled today than what she was, at least in that Saratoga Oaks. She was really revved up at the spot, and as we often say, the energy up there in Saratoga can really get one a bit unraveled. Well, she's nice and calm here in the paddock for Rick Dutrow, and I do think she deserves another look here, getting a little less distance to work with to stretch that speed. As we'll move on to number 1 with possibly one of my favorite names in racing. That's number 1, Mo Fox Given for Mark Casse. As last time out in the Dually Ground Oaks at Kentucky Downs, 1 mile and 5/16, she had a decent trip, but just watching her as she saved ground most of the way there, she just kind of looked lost. And at the end of that long stretch, she just looked tired. So I'm willing to forgive her, because she's also been kind of right there. I know she hasn't won that many races, but she's been in the mix against some tough customers. And she looks great here in the paddock for Mark Casse, who will send her out for the 3rd time from his barn. Just really well conditioned, really healthy coat to her. And I think this 1 mile and 1/8 should suit her very well. Acacia?
Maggie, thank you. 7-2 on Mo Fox Given. You have to say that one slowly, Richie, as she did try that Dueling Ground Oaks last time out at Kentucky Downs. But, it's interesting what Maggie said for a horse looking lost. You see that sometimes over at Kentucky Downs with that undulating turf course, that some horses just don't kind of get their feet underneath them and get us comfortable.
One of a horse's biggest fears is being prone, being on the ground. And if they don't have confidence in the ground they're running on, they'll take care of themselves. You go, no. Because you think about a horse in the wild. When are they at their most vulnerable? When they're laying down. That's why you see a lot of horses sleep standing up, because they're a prey animal. In the recesses of their heart, somewhere in their instincts, they're going to protect themselves. And I've seen horses that don't run well down the 6.5 furlong turf course at Santa Anita because they don't have confidence running downhill. And it's similar with Kentucky Downs with that undulation that you spoke about.
Let's go, if we can, next to the number 4, Makanga. She just wanted to wrap up what Maggie was touching on with her in the Jockey Club Oaks last time out. I was in the paddock for her last race, and she was so much calmer even last time as well. I had spoken to Rick Dutrow 2 starts back between the Saratoga Oaks, and he had even commented that she was a mess in the receiving barn coming over that day. And they have to walk from their stalls and across the street, and you have the crowd around them and all of that. Much quieter atmosphere here. So she was much more settled last time out as well. It was a big difference. I actually picked her in that Jockey Club Oaks, and she wasn't quite as keen on the front end as she was in Saratoga, but she still did get a bit headstrong.
Well, and again, it was 1 mile and 3 furlongs. I think what happens too is, right, it's a 3-turn race. So they break into that first turn, might even fool them a little bit, but now they turn for home, and horses are conditioned, right? When they train in the morning, what do? They go off as easy as they can, and they finish strongly through the stretch. Now a horse like this gets through the stretch the first time, and they're thinking, it's time to go because I'm in the home stretch, but they've got another lap to go. I think today being a 2-turn race, it's going to be a completely different setup. I do think she's handling herself well, and I just think the turn back should really suit her, and there's absolutely no speed in here.
She is the controlling pace early on. She will be forward, and we'll see if Jose Lascano, who will climb aboard today, can get her to be a bit more settled and relaxed on the cutback and distance. There's Dylan Davis about to get a leg up on Mo Fox Given, as the favorite now is 5-2 on style points heading out for the Grade 2 Sands Point. And we'll see how the pace does develop, because the favorites in both style points and Spaladay are deep closers. Are they going to get enough of a setup in here to come running late?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll all depend on Makanga's going to be in front. I mean, I think that's a given. How settled she does it, and if she gets keen, because if she gets too keen, then the race is essentially she's a false pacemaker, and you're going to be looking at the horse that's laying second as the leader.
Well, meeting the field for the Sands Point, starting off with the 1, Mo Fox Given, looking for the first win in the Mark Casse barn.
I'm willing to forgive that race at Kentucky Downs. I think Maggie made great points. She's got races good enough to be competitive.
Spaladay, 3-1, coming out of a 4th place finish.
Comes off of back-to-back really good trips, but maybe she's one of those horses that just creates her good trips.
Shade of Pale for Chad Brown got the perfect setup last time.
It's going to have to step forward from what we've seen, but it could happen.
Makanga, she's the pace setter.
Controlling speed. Hopefully she settles on the lead.
Here is the number 5, Corb, who's getting onto the turf for the first time.
But has that turf work in Saratoga back on September 20th, and if Todd Pletcher liked what he saw enough to put her in here, I have confidence in Todd.
Style points, Virginia Oaks winner.
Very hard knocking, consistent sort, shows up every time, has that long extended run.
And Justin Nye, another horse that's cutting back in distance.
Yeah, comes off a really good effort in that Jockey Club Oaks, was second best there. She was beaten 1.5 lengths, and Makanga was beaten 4 3/4. So basically 3.5 lengths separated them, or 3 1/4 lengths separated them. And Makanga gets 1/4 mile less to work with, and looks like she's lone speed here. That's the direction I'm leaning.
Yeah. As there's a look at the starting gate here. For those not familiar with the 1 1/8 configuration here at Aqueduct, you're kind of coming out of a chute and onto the track. Can you describe it a little bit for a rider and what kind of position you need to get out of that chute?
Yeah, it's a bit of a dog leg, right? Where you're up in the middle, basically in the infield of the racetrack, and the way the rails are set up, and you're going to come straight for about 110 yards before you actually make that left-hand bend into the straight onto the course proper. I think in this field, it's going to be less imperative, right, to get over as quickly as possible. I think you have plenty of time for it to kind of sort out, and particularly with a horse like Makanga, who probably is going to stretch the field a bit anyway.
We've seen her put some separation on her company in her last few races. There is Spaladay, though, as we'll take a look at her win 2 starts back in the Boiling Spring, where she did get a perfect trip, saved all the ground under Sammy Camacho that day, tipping out, but she was impressive in doing so. Good trip in the Lake Placid, was beaten by her stablemate, Grayosh.
Yeah, listen, she got to save ground, ease out, made a little room for herself. And, you like when a horse is brave. Some horses, will shy from that little bit of contact when they're trying to make room for themselves. She was all horse about it. She put her head down, she hit the gap running, and finished this very nicely. Listen, she got a good trip last time as well. But some horses help facilitate those good trips. They're handy, they're brave, they'll put you in the spots you want to be. There's a lot of times I'll hear trainers, particularly when I'm downstairs reporting, asking a rider, well, why didn't you go to that spot? Why didn't you go there? A lot of times it's your horse doesn't want to go to that spot, and you can't leave your dance partner.
There she is, Spaladay, warming up on the track with her ears pricked. Manny Franco going to climb aboard this one. She's 3-1 right now on the board, as Chad Brown does send out 2 in here. He also sends out the 3 Shade of Pale. As mentioned, the pace did completely fall apart for her win last time out. But we'll take a look at the 7 Just Deny, who, like Makanga, as you mentioned, cutting back in distance after running in that Jockey Club Oaks last time out. But with Makanga kind of not being able to sustain that early speed, and there she is way out in front of the rest of the field. Just Deny, I think, looks a little bit better because she was right there in that first flight.
I think that's a very fair assessment of it, and she had a good trip. And again, it was a function of Makanga being too keen, running off, and she wound up sitting in a good trip. Now she got picked off by the last run of Beautiful Love. Such a strangely run race, and it's hard for riders, right? You're back 10, 11 lengths, that horse is sailing along on the lead, to not get kind of caught up, right? Like starting to just edge forward a little bit too soon. I think she was second best, but I think it's a completely different race turning back that quarter of a mile.
8-1 right now on Just Deny. Maggie, what are you seeing from her on the track?
That here at Aqueduct, for some reason, she is like the antithesis of what we often talk about in the changes of scenery from here to Saratoga, in that she was actually fairly calm in her races in Saratoga, and every time I've seen her, which is only 2 times, the other being when she broke her maiden here, and today, she's very aggressive. I mean, she is on the muscle and really tugging at her groom and on her toes, so we'll see how she does today. And furthermore, it feels as though she found that success and better results when she got to go a bit further. So cutting back in distance might not necessarily do her any favors. And as you guys kind of touched on, I'm not exactly sure how to gauge that Jockey Club Oaks, because the 2 favorites didn't necessarily show up, and it was a strangely run race, as you mentioned. So we'll see how it stacks up against this Sands Point field. As let's also talk about number 3, Shade of Pale. I don't particularly like her, and she's going to have to get a lot faster, and maybe they're just searching for some black type for this Peter Brandt homebred. I'll say this, though. She is a lot more fit. She's a lot more developed than when I saw her 2 back at Monmouth. It really looked like she needed that start. She did obviously perform better in breaking her maiden with a bit more ground last time, but she does look like a different animal than when I saw her back in June at Monmouth. And then I'm actually going to land on number 1 here, Mo Fox Given. Now, I'm going to hope that the pace kind of comes back to her a little bit, because I do feel at times she's a little pace compromised, and maybe she is a filly that's better at the mile distances where she will get a bit more early pace to run at. But also going back to what we said about Kentucky Downs, she's actually kind of a tall, leggy filly. So, that center of gravity isn't necessarily there with her being low to the ground, because, I feel like a horse that is leggy, think about them kind of running on stilts. Do you want to be running up and down hills and making all those weird turns like you have to do at Kentucky Downs? No. And she is that horse. So getting back to a more true American turf course here, I think will really help Mo Fox Given. And Acacia, she's taking some money, all things considered.
She absolutely is. Maggie, thank you. 4-1 on Mo Fox Given, who gets back to kind of a flat turf course here versus that undulating turf course at Kentucky Downs last time out, and also going a bit further. 7-2 right now on the Rail Runner.
Yeah, listen, somebody much smarter than me, Dennis Bryer, once told me you never throw a horse out off of 1 poor effort, and you don't coronate a champion off of 1 big effort. I can forgive that race, and she's got races that certainly make her a contender. You get Dylan Davis, who's been riding so well, and especially the turf so well, and he and Mark Cassidy have proven to be a formidable combination.
And Dylan and Mark teaming up last weekend, as you mentioned, winning with Abiento, picking up a stakes victory on the turf for 2-year-olds. Saw them winning in Saratoga together. So Mark kind of reaching out for Dylan with the horses here in New York. And we've talked about this a lot, but always worth repeating for Dylan Davis, a rider that was kind of on the cusp of being at the highest level of the jockey colony. A real breakout year for him.
Breakout year instills more confidence in him and instills more confidence in owners and trainers to give him the opportunities. And the biggest difference in Dylan, he's always had the ability, is how consistent he's gotten with his riding. There were days he would ride brilliant races, and then there were days you'd kind of scratch your head a little bit. He has gotten in that zone. He's mature, his preparation is impeccable, his approach is impeccable, and he's been doing it now the entire year in a very consistent high level.
Yeah, not just the summer of Dylan Davis, it's carried over into this fall as well. He's on a 4-1 shot coming up here. 3-2 now on Style Points, shorter price. Look, maybe she is the best horse in the field, and that could be the case, but she will need to navigate a bit of a trip.
Yeah, she will. And listen, we know that Joel Rosario is brilliant, and he's a Hall of Famer. But we've seen less consistency, particularly recently. We know when Joel Rosario's on point, he's as good as anybody there is. That's the question, though. So you always, I'm always wondering exactly what kind of trip are we going to get here.
Even money right now on Style Points as Joel Rosario will look for his 4th win in the Sands Point. They load in. It's our America's Best Racing Race of the Week. Track announcer Chris Griffin standing by with the rest of the load and call.
3 out, Corb. Style Points. And Just Deny. Last to load to the outside. Grade 2, 30th running of the Sands Point, $200,000. All set. And they're off. Slight stumble after the start for Shade of Pale. The leader is Makenga. The front-running style of Makenga out in the center of the course is the clear leader, and Makenga comes out of the chute, is up by a full length. There's Corb to the outside, and Style Points wants to be close to the early action in between horses. At the rail comes Mo Fox Given. That's the leading 4. Then Shade of Pale is towards the back end with Just Deny and the early trailer. Spaladay. Makenga is in front, and Makenga turns up the pressure, is now 4 lengths clear, working into that turn. It's Makenga and Jose Lescano on the engine. They're up by that 4.5 lengths. Corb is content to sit right here in second. Then at the rail, that's Mo Fox Given, and to the outside of that rival comes Style Points is in 4th. Just Deny is to the outside of Shade of Pale. They move in closer as a pair, and the trailer continues to be Spaladay. They're chasing Makenga. Makenga, free running on the front end, is still 6 lengths clear of the rest. Corb starts to move in closer with Mo Fox Given, who's gotten off the rail, has moved towards the outside, less than a half mile to go. Style Points is now a lone 4th in behind those rivals. Just Deny is moving to the outside with a 3-wide run. The 2 at the back, Shade of Pale, and Spaladay starts the move from the back as Style Points just had to check and really check hard there going into the turn, and Style Points is towards the back end of the field. Makenga is the leader. Makenga with Mo Fox Given is right there in pursuit, tips towards the outside. Makenga trying to fend him off. Mo Fox Given catching with every stride. Corbin Spaladay tries to roll on the grandstand side. Style Points is making up some late ground after the trouble in the turn. Makenga is still there. It's Makenga who's still up by 2. Here comes Spaladay to the outside. Spaladay, Makenga trying to hold on. Spaladay in time to win the Sands Point. Spaladay wins it there over Makenga. Photo for 3rd. Tight photo in the Sands Point goes to Spaladay and Manny Franco.
A bit of an eventful running of the Sands Point, but it is Spaladay who's able to run down the loose on the lead Makenga. But we're going to take a look here, Richie. Something happens where the 6 Style Points has to shuffle, steady it sharply and get shuffled back. She ends up re-rallying for 3rd, but she was totally taken out of the race.
At a point where the race is starting to heat up and go forward, Style Points is going to have to check and check severely there, lose any position. Again, at a critical juncture, when a turf race is going forward, that's when you need to be able to identify your live cover and follow them. And the fact that she re-rallied at all and came again with a run on the inside makes you feel like she certainly would have been right there at the finish, but she just had an extremely eventful trip, kind of had a little, pause there as well, and she comes running. This is one of those cases where you go, life is like a box of chocolates, and so is some of the rides you get from Joel Rosario. You're just not quite sure what you're going to get, and he found trouble in a race where nobody else seemed to find that kind of trouble.
Style Points re-rallying for third up the inside, but clear and with clear sailing and all the momentum was Spaladay running on the outside and able to just run down Makenga late at the wire.
Now, listen, Spaladay was good. Don't want to disparage or not give the winner the credit deserved, because she was very good and she finished extremely well. And with her pedigree now being a graded stakes winner, her value went up exponentially.
Out of Breeders' Cup winner, Day at the Spa.
Day at the Spa.
Huge pedigree.
Tremendous race mare in her own right, a New York bred, as a matter of fact. And Makenga got a terrific ride from Jose Lezcano, a horse that's difficult, and she did everything but win, fought as hard as she could, just picked off late by Spaladay with a good trip. And Style Points, kind way to say it is she was unlucky.
2, 4, 6, 1. Second win today for jockey Manny Franco as he guides Spaladay to the winner's circle in the Sands Point. When we come back, Todd Pletcher gearing up for the Breeders' Cup World Championships. No surprise, he has some big chances, including Breeders' Cup Classic contender Fierceness.
Welcome back, and thanks for tuning in here to America's Day at the Races on FS1. Spaladay with a relentless late rally to take down the Grade 2 Sands Point for a trainer who's no stranger to winning these types of races. And Chad Brown, and Chad, a filly that she's not the quickest out of the gate, but boy, when she heads down the stretch, she flies.
Yeah, she's really kicks pretty good, and even putting the blinker on her, I was surprised to see her that far back, but I'm pretty proud of her. I think she ran down a good horse. The horse that was second, I think, has a lot of ability also, so I'm very pleased with the result.
And to talk a little bit about kind of fine-tuning these 3-year-old fillies, which is something that you're so good at.
Thank you. Well, I have the right team to do it, and I know I always say that, but it's the truth. And you know, they've bought into the program, and they know all their individual tasks on how to develop these horses as we have them. And here's a horse that's a perfect example of just getting things together. I haven't been able to make her get better position in her races, but we've certainly been able to develop her to get faster with her numbers and just improve overall physically and mentally, and I'm happy with that.
And of course, for longtime supporter Peter Brandt. Chad, I saw you at Tattersall's, which is an annual trip for you and something that you've had so much success in doing. Talk a little bit about each trip over there and the quality that you see.
Well, the better we do, the price keeps going up, and I see people like you and your husband over there. So there's a lot of competition now. So we're a little bit of a victim of our own success over there. When I first started going over there with Mike Ryan, it was just a different play and to sort of like do something different within the market. And then now that we've had success, there's a lot more competition internationally, not just Americans, but a lot of people. So the price of poker has gone up for sure. We ended up with a dozen horses out of there, but the average was way up. But I saw several Americans get horses, nice horses that we had on our list as well. So I'm sure we'll all be running against each other next year, but I think it was a productive trip.
Yeah, it really feels like the European influence and blood is here to stay, and it's something you've done so well. Congratulations here with Spaladay.
I just want to mention I trained her mother, so this is the best horse that she's had day at the spa, so extra meaningful today for me.
Absolutely. Chad, well done. And Keisha, as you said, extra, that much more rewarding, I should say, when you've worked with the family.
Absolutely. Knowing those bloodlines and Spaladay getting her first graded stake victory here as the Winner's Circle Lead-In is brought to you by the Fasig-Tipton November sale, the world's premier breeding stock sale. Sell your star on November 4th after the Breeders' Cup. Spaladay with the victory, $8.30. Winner Makanga, after setting the pace, holding on for second, and a hard luck style points in third. Race 6 will be the 2-year-old race of the day, brought to you by Spencer Farm, home of North America's 5-time reigning champion General Sire Into Mischief. And Chad Brown has a very short price, no surprise, in this race as well. 7 furlongs on the main track for the 2-year-olds. And I think Keewaydin, probably one of the shortest prices you're going to see on the card. Flattered when the winner of that race he faced first out, Tip Top Thomas, came back to run so well, finishing second in the Grade 1 Champagne.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out of a very strong race, ran extremely well that day, and like you said, Tip Top Thomas, what a nice effort in the Champagne, came up second best to Chancellor McPatrick, but he was the last horse standing after battling early.
Well, the number 5, Dr. Incel, a first-time starter trained by Todd Pletcher. But when Todd Pletcher was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I don't think anybody in racing was really that surprised. But before he was the Todd Pletcher, the Hall of Fame trainer that we know, those around him growing up knew what the future had in store.
We was at La Mesa Park in New Mexico, and he was 8 years old, and they had a horse sale there, yearling sale. Todd said, "Dad, this lady wants to give me a horse. Her husband bought this horse out of the sale for $800, and she's gonna give it away." He said, "Dad, this is a nice little horse. He's correct. Can I have him?" We took him and we broke him, and the first time we ran him for 25,000 claimant. They claimed the horse. He won, and he had 36,000 in the bank. And I said, "That's a good start on your college education right there."
I have never in my life been known except, "Oh, that's Todd Pletcher's mother." I have no identity. I'm just Todd Pletcher's mother.
Todd Pletcher had the work ethic, he had the energy, he was articulate, and I guess I could say he's pretty handsome too. but the big thing was he was a damn good horseman.
And Lucas must be proud of you people. I don't care how the
He is. We all saw him here at Belmont, and you can see that he's sort of taking pride in the fact that most of the guys that have worked for him are doing pretty well.
I used to say, I'm going to have a name for you. You know, like all these big people have names, and, you know, Marvelous this, and this, Assessing, and this. I said, you're El Duro. He said, what does that mean? I said, El Duro is the person that is the tough one, the hardest one. The one that, like, if it's a group of people there, and you point to them and say, that guy, he's El Duro.
Obviously, he's a very unique guy. He's hands-on on everything. You try to go into the computer, believe me, it's not going to work.
You know, Johnny and I were sort of coming along at the same time, so it just sort of evolved where Johnny was on the rise and our stable was growing.
The Shadow, Mikestown, Uncle Mo, English Channel, forward, Stay Thirsty, Alice Malice, Quality Road, Left Bank, Cross Traffic, Lawyer Ron, wait a while, and it's going to be a filly in the Belmont.
To me, Rags to Riches was always the most exciting and funnest win that we've had. The Derby with Super Saver was almost like a relief. With Always Dreaming, we really felt like we had a huge chance, and it was extra special to win it with Johnny.
After all these races that we had won together, he had won the Derby with somebody else, I had won the Derby with somebody else. It felt right. It felt really, really right.
We've had a lot of starters in the Derby. I think we've had 59. But one thing I'm proud of is I think 29 of those have gone on to win stake races after the Kentucky Derbies.
And it's a vintage performance by Vino Rosso.
All the grade ones, the champion horses, the number of wins, the money earned, 14 training titles at Saratoga. You know, he's won 14 in 25 years.
The Lucas organization instilled early on is it's a team effort. I've been fortunate to have staff that has been with me for a long time and a good portion of the 25 years that it's taken to get to this point. Without them, you can't make it work, and I also appreciate that some of them who have worked for me have gone on to do very well on their own. So Wayne Lucas has a pretty impressive family tree. Our branch has done pretty well on its own also.
The one thing I contribute to Todd's success is he's always known what he wanted to be, and Todd was a type that anything he set his mind to, he could do.
The first text I sent to him was to Todd and Tracy, congratulating both of them, because it's an amazing team effort. Tracy's involved in the business. If Todd works 20 hours a day, she probably works 21 hours a day. She deserves as much credit as he does.
It's hard because it's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifices. He always separates one with the other one. You know, his family's family and this is a business.
There's some games that I missed, and there's some parties that I missed, and there's some school events that I missed that, you know, I wish I could have back. But on the flip side of that, I think the one thing that we get in this industry is the family can also share in a lot of the stuff that's going on. So, you know, the kids were able to spend summers working at the barn, and they were able to come in for the Derby and go to the big races. You know, it's not too often that your kids can come to your job, come to your office, and then share some of the big moments as well.
Trainer Todd Pletcher inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021, an 8-time Eclipse Award champion trainer, and one who definitely came up in the business and learned at the feet of a master in D. Wayne Lucas, and now really has just created such a huge name and a huge presence for himself.
And he's done it through hard work and dedication, a singular focus, and Mike Rapoli hit the nail on the head too, giving his wife Tracy so much credit as well, because they've been a formidable combination, a great team. And one thing that kind of gets overlooked, yes, he was with Wayne and he was obviously a tremendous mentor, but the foundation was laid by his dad, JJ, one of the best horsemen I've ever been around. And I knew early on, I was driving down in a limousine to Delaware Park with Todd for the Delaware Park Handicap. Actually, we won it with a filly with a wink. And his focus and his approach, and you could just see his serious demeanor, he was going to be a success. Like I said, great foundation by his dad, continuing education by Wayne, and then a work ethic that is second to none.
Absolutely. All those hours at the barn, the hard work and the big wins rewarding for Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher. He will send out a big contender for champion 3-year-old and also a contender for the Breeders' Cup Classic in Fierceness. Now, he's one of those horses. There are a few 3-year-olds with 2 grade 1s. He is one of them, having won the Florida Derby and the Travers. And he finally showed this summer he could put back-to-back victories together. Now the big question is, if he finds some adversity in the Breeders' Cup, will he overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the big question. And maybe it's just he wasn't particularly good or himself on those days, and it was less about adversity, and he just wasn't running up underneath Johnny Velasquez enough to get the spots he wanted to get. I like the fact that he put together back-to-back, big efforts in Saratoga, and the Travers was terrific. Torpedo Anna stretched him, but he looked like he met that challenge and found more. It's interesting. Championship ramifications, you needed to see him be able to put it back-to-back.
Now, he's a horse, too. His full brother, Mentee, just won sprinting on the turf last weekend at Futurity, and I interviewed Todd afterwards, and I asked him for an update about Fierceness, and his face lit up as soon as he talked about him. He had just worked the day prior and saying he was doing fantastic coming into this Breeders' Cup Classic.
I think that's a big tell, because Todd's not a guy that's overly demonstrative, right, with his feelings, and the fact that he lit up like that to me is a tell. And staying up in Saratoga, training up there, I think horses do so well up there in the fall. If I was training horses, that's where I'd want to be, particularly September, October, before the weather starts to get a little dicey.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to seeing Fierceness go up against some of those older horses in what's a pretty wide open Breeders' Cup Classic division. There is Todd's charge in this upcoming 6th race, though. Dr. Incel, first-time starter by Uncle Mo. Dam actually the sister to Princess of Silmar, so there is some pedigree in the bottom side, but he's a big price, and almost everybody's a big price in the face of the 6th in here.
Well, I like that, though. Todd's got his fingerprints all over this horse's pedigree, right? Obviously training Uncle Mo, Princess of Silmar. And this horse has actually been training down here at Belmont Park. Yeah, first-time starter right inside him, I thought was a bit interesting. Yeah. Fort Nelson with a big pedigree.
Very big pedigree at Fort Belmont. But for more on these 2-year-olds, Maggie Wolfendale is with us. Maggie, you've got 1 to 9 and then some prices if you like anybody else in this race coming up.
Yeah, and I have to admit that looking at Q8 here in the paddock, it's going to be very tough to beat him. He just looks like a different class, at least, having that race under his belt, and I especially like him at the 7 furlongs. But let's check in with some first-time starters, beginning with number 3, Sky Rush for Danny Gargan, has turned in some pretty quick works over the Belmont training track, and he is a son of white-hot freshman sire Vekoma, who is hitting at 26% with this first crop. And while there isn't much to report home on in the first generation, the dam is half two. In fact, a grade 1 winner right here at this track in one of my favorite horses, True Timber, who took down the Cigar Mile, actually giving jockey Kendrick Harmouche his first grade 1 victory. But Skyrush, big, robust horse. There's a lot of substance to this guy. Now, with that being said, he'll likely need a start from the fitness perspective, and he does wear blinkers first time out. But he's a horse that I don't necessarily think is going to win here, but one that I want to watch in how he runs. If he gives some hints at ability, I think he's one to definitely watch as we go forward. Now, as Meg said, number 4, Fort Nelson, has that lovely pedigree as he is out of multiple grade 1 winning 7th Street, actually ridden throughout her career by our good friend and colleague Rajiv Mirage. And this also makes Fort Nelson a full brother to Marking, who's multiple graded stakes placed dirt sprinter, including such races as the Malibu, and actually the dam is half to Ronaldo the Wizard, who's been a major player in the dirt sprint division in the Middle East. So a lot of sprint with this pedigree, though I gotta say he does look a little bit more of his dam's ilk, and that 7 furlongs is probably a good place for him to start. He's actually really long and kind of stretchy looking, but does come in here for Bill looking incredibly fit, which sometimes I'll say, look, and he's like, he looks as though he needs a start for fitness or to strengthen up. Not the case pace here with Fort Nelson. So I think he definitely is one that you have to pay attention to. Now, Keewaydin's going to have to face some other horses who have experience like he does that, I feel as though that holds a bit of an edge. And that includes number 9 in here, Volt, for Mark Casse, who took a lot of money first time out as the favorite with a nice pedigree, but wired that day. And he didn't have as much natural early speed. So Ben Curtis, his jockey on that occasion, had to really kind of niggle at him the entire way. And he was running with his head up in the air, indicating that he was just very green in dealing with the kickback. And a lot of times when there's smoke, there's fire. Granted, that was at Colonial. This is here at Aqueduct. But a horse that I think should actually be a bit quicker than that first race suggests, and with getting a little bit more ground. Very classy acting here for being a son of Tappet Acacia. So one that I wouldn't completely dismiss.
Does have that experience, Maggie, thank you, and that could always be a big key when these horses have a race under their belt and can move forward from that. Let's meet the rest of the field, though, starting off with another one with experience, Antisocial.
Antisocial debuted in a stakes race at Monmouth, Flash Speed there. Gonna have to step forward.
First-time starter, as Maggie said, with Vekoma, a little bit green, Sky Rush.
Yeah, not crazy about the pony there. Looks like a little bit upset by Vekoma, though. Hot sire.
First-time starter, Fort Godolphin with that lovely pedigree, Fort Nelson.
Strong pedigree, full to masking, as well as, marking, and half to Lake Avenue as well.
Keewaydin, your favorite?
Yeah, listen, comes out of a strong race. The runner-up wound up being second in the Champagne. Makes a lot of sense.
And Volt with that experience.
Yeah, has a race under his belt, and usually they step forward with a race on their belt. Nice pedigree, too. Tap it out of Wandy's Girl, my Wandy's Girl.
1 to 9 on your favorite right now, as we'll talk more about the Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day when we come back. Stay with us on America's Day at the Races.
They're coming down for the finish, and it is Silver State.
50-60, 250-60, now 60, 260 mark, 260,000.
Grade 1 winner Silver State, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Spun to Run. His brilliant speed figures were among the fastest of any 3-year-old at a mile or more, and he hails from the legendary Danzig sire line. Now, this multiple graded stakes winner, millionaire, and Breeders' Cup champion is passing his remarkable talent along to his progeny.
Night Beacon airs at the home of Spun to Run's Breeders' Cup victory.
Spun to Run, standing at Gainesway.
You have to be here to feel the rumble from 40,000 race fans. Mixed with the Pacific breeze, you have to be here to taste extravagance and witness greatness race after race after race. You have to be here to witness unforgettable and to believe the unbelievable. This November, be at Del Mar for an experience that's truly a breed apart.
You're watching America's Day at the Races, brought to you in part by Hillendale at Alapa, where the obscure becomes obvious. Our Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day coming up next, as there's a look at your favorite, Keewaydin, as he ran very well at first, asking Richie behind Tip Top Thomas, who would come back to run a valiant second behind Chancellor McPatrick in the Grade 1 Champagne. And this is a horse that, just watching the way that he ran, looks like he will love getting a little bit more distance today with that big long stride.
Yeah, he does have a big long stride. You know, it's evident watching him in this replay, but also watching him warm up just now. What a lovely mover and light on his feet for a big horse. Looks like when he got away from horse a little bit, that he found this a little bit more. He started to extend again, and he comes out of a very live race. Listen, he's going to be very tough. I'm going to pick against him just because I'm not going to pick a 1-9 shot. If it was as simple as who would I want to ride, yeah, I'd want to ride him.
I think that's a fair assessment. He is a short price right now. He's one of 3 with the experience, the 2 Antisocial having run before, as has the number 9 Volt having run before. So there are a couple of experienced race horses in here, but none who have run as fast as your favorite. As horses complete their warm-ups, let's go back to Maggie trackside.
Yeah, we'll take a look at Antisocial here, who I thought was, broke well first time out, and then he was put in chase mode behind a gate to wire winner and favored that day in JJ Zozos. Very handsome horse, as Jorge Duarte's horses tend to be. They often have, that really kind of more robust physical and body type to them, and this guy's no different. Pretty aggressive in his demeanor too. So look for him, whilst being on the inside, to be forward yet again here as he does stretch out an extra furlong. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be as fast as your favorite Keewaydin, but still maybe he takes that advantage. Physically, I'm not sold on the fact that longer's ultimately better, because despite being a bigger horse, he is really kind of built downhill more like a sprinting type. So we'll find out if this 7 furlong stretches him today. But let's talk about your favorite, Keewaydin. First time out, he was very professional in the way he acted, but also kind of was nickering, maybe a little touch distracted in the paddock today. All about his business. And in fact, I think he's put on some weight. He's gotten stronger out of that race. And as you guys just noted in watching him warm up, really, really a good mover. And I think he is so much the horse to beat, although we do see the tack off. I believe number 3 in here, that is Sky Rush. Looks as though we have a late scratch yet again. Acacia, take out number 3, Sky Rush.
Late scratch of that first-time starter, Maggie. Thank you, Sky Rush. Coming out here, there's Luis Rivera Jr. with his tack. We'll get a ride back. So late scratch of that first-time starter here. For those not familiar, Richie, for a rider, what is the protocol if they feel that something's not 100% and they'd like to scratch?
Yeah, a rider's warming a horse up. Sometimes he can feel things that you can't see visually from the ground. And if a rider's not comfortable or not happy with the way a horse is warming up, not to their satisfaction, they go to the examining veterinarian stationed at different parts of the racetrack, but behind the starting gate in particular, and express that they're just not crazy about the way this horse is moving. And in New York, it's an automatic scratch. There's no conversation. It's one of the strict protocols in place to ensure that only healthy, sound horses are competing. And now this horse will have to, go through a battery of exams, veterinary exam, work for the veterinarian to their satisfaction before he'll be allowed to be entered to race again.
Yeah, absolutely. Protocol in place there. As you said, we'll have to work for the state vet. Blood work have to be taken before we'll be able to enter into another race to make sure that everything is 100% at that point. And so now we'll take a look at the board. A first-time starter coming out. Still 1 to 5. Keewaydin, a very short price, but there is the 4, Fort Nelson, out of 7th Street. What a talented filly she was out on the racetrack. As we'll take a look at her winning here on the track, Richie.
Go for
in
Wand.
the 2009 Go for Wand.
Yeah, with our friend and colleague Rajiv Miraj aboard. She was a multiple Grade 1 winner, also won the Apple Blossom. Very, very nice racehorse, but has turned into a nice producer as well.
Absolutely.
Right, this horse, Full to Marking, who won on debut. wound up being runner-up in the Malibu to Run Happy. Not bad company keeping there. Lake Avenue. She's a producer. One thing that stood out to me, Bill Mott is not a trainer that works his horses fast. 2 works back, this horse went 59-4 out of the gate. Bill Mott did not ask his rider to make this horse go as fast as he could go. He did this because he's talented. And even though you got to take those gate works on the Belmont training track with a little bit of a grain of salt because they tend to be just a touch faster, it's more of an about distance, that's still a fast work for a Bill Mott trainee, and I think that tips his hand that this horse has ability.
First-time starter, the second choice at 6-1, 1-4 though on Key Waden for the second-time starter at a very short price. No surprise here. Again, late scratch of the 3. Pick 6 kicking off here with our Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day. Here's Chris Griffin.
And they're off and hopping right up in the air. At the start was Dr. Insel is the early trailer, hopped right up in the air. The leader is Key Waden, right to the front and has pressure now from Fort Nelson towards the inside, and Fort Nelson puts ahead in front. Key Waden is going to stalk here from second. At the Rail is Antisocial in third. Volt is the gray moving forward, and a tall task now after the start. Far back, Dr. Insel is the distant trailer, already about 15 off the leading quartet. The leader is Fort Nelson. It's Fort Nelson in front, Joel Rosario with a head in front, and Key Waden just stalking the pace setter, sitting right to the outside. These two as they approach, 4 furlongs left to go. Then comes Volt, who's on the move. Ricardo Santana Jr. and Volt are in pursuit of Key Waden, who's coming to call for the lead, and Key Waden has now put a nose in front. Fort Nelson is shoved along towards the inside, trying to keep up with the new leader, Key Waden. Volt is watching them still from third. Under drive, Antisocial, and still far back, Dr. Insel. They're approaching a quarter mile left to go, and Key Waden's got the lead. It's Key Waden, but Volt is ready to make this favorite run, and here's Volt down the center of the racetrack, coming right after Key Waden, who finds more. It's Key Waden who extends the margin once again, is back up by 2. A furlong left to go. Key Waden, Volt continues to give game chase. It is far back to the rest. It's down to these 2, and now it's down to this 1. Key Waden is still 2.5 clear. Key Waden, Dylan Davis, they get the victory. Key Waden wins it over Volt, far, far back to Antisocial.
Favorite delivers. Key Waden finishing up victorious here in his second start. Dylan Davis in the saddle for Chad Brown.
Yeah, justifying the public's confidence in this horse. Came out of a good race, ran probably even better today, put himself right in the game, and always looked the winner pretty much every step of the way. And I think this underscores the fact that 7 furlongs, horses that have had a start, is always beneficial.
And I love what Dylan Davis did here. He put the crop away after he knew he had enough and he was clear, and Ricardo Santana was in an all-out drive on the runner-up trying to catch him. But I love that he put the crop away for a young 2-year-old, gave him a good experience, knew that there was enough to get the win.
It's a great point. And listen, the crop is supposed to be an aid, a tool. Jockeys ride with shorter stirrups than the average equestrian rider, right? So you lose your leg aid, and the crop is there to get a horse's attention, keep them to task, keep them busy. But when a horse is doing what you've asked them to do, don't use the crop, because in essence then you're punishing them for doing what you asked them to do. And when a rider's confident and riding well, they're conscious of these things.
This is a ride that we call hands and heels.
I like
down
that.
to the wire.
I like that. I've become even more conscious of it and more respectful of it now that I don't ride. Sometimes it's hard. When you're in the midst of it, you get lost in it.
6-9, 2-4. Experience runs at 1-2-3. The favorite, Key Waden, the victor. More America's Day at the races after this.
Introducing Gift Box, winner of the Grade 1 Santa Anita Handicap. He's a 3-time graded stakes winning millionaire with 4 triple-digit buyers and a 4 Ragazine to his name. He proved himself early as a graded stakes place 2-year-old, and now his career as a stallion is just getting started. From the first crop of the leading sire Twirling Candy out of a multiple graded stakes producing mare. Gift Box, only at Lane's End.
You're watching America's Day at the Races, brought to you by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, visit americasbestracing.net today. Dylan Davis picking up another one, this time for Chad Brown. Keewaydin, that colt by Instagrand, delivers as the heavy favorite at second asking.
Yeah, just set the trip, always poised, looked like a winner every step of the way. Took a strong challenge from Volt, turning for home, but turned that rival back. And experience shows you how important it is, particularly going 7 furlongs. 1, 2, 3 finishes, all had a start under their belt. It's a nice effort.
Absolutely. Put the crop away, hands and heels down to the wire, enough to win, saving something in the tank for your favorite. And as you mentioned, that experience, so crucial in the Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day. $2.40 winner. He was 1-5 and delivers. Race 7 will be our second stake of the day. This one, the Floral Park, 6 furlongs on the turf. 4 fillies and mares, as currently Risk Threshold is a very short price favorite. Chad Brown looking for another win today, and this one does seem to have the pace dynamics, as she will be the controlling speed. See if she can take them every step of the way. Trainer Lindsay Schultz, though, will send out the 6 Cecile, as she will cut back in distance. This filly by Mendelssohn, and we'll take a little look as far as this young female trainer paving her own path and learn a bit more about her story after this on America's Day at the Races.
Down, 350. Here we go. 3 here, 50. Down 4, 8.5 in the back. 1,400,000 stands way in the back. Thank you.
1,000,005 and 1,006,000. $150,000, $1,550,000 $1,500,000. Jody, thank you.
Please hold your applause.
Charlatan, ultra impressive.
It's a new day for a new king.
Fasig-Tipton, Kentucky October Yearlings. 2 catalogs stacked with quality yearlings by the nation's most prolific sires. Recent Grade 1 winning grads include Kentucky Oaks victor Torpedo Anna, Breeders' Cup champions Goodnight Olive and No Balls, and Vanderbilt Handicap winner Nakatomi. The grand finale of the yearling sale season. Fasig-Tipton, Kentucky October Yearlings. October 21st through 24th in Lexington, Kentucky. Where will you be?
He's a running son of a gun.
Papa Cap now has the advantage.
A graded stakes winning 2-year-old. Grade 1 Breeders' Cup juvenile runner-up at 2. Multiple Grade 1 placings at 3. Finished in the top 4 in 11 out of 12 starts.
And from here on in, it's just a matter of how far. Papa Cap, an easy winner of the best pal.
Papa Cap, standing at Walmack.
I always wanted to train myself, especially since I've worked longer at the track and been an assistant. And I know how hard I work and how hard trainers work, and that never scared me off, and it was always something that I thrived on. And I always wanted to also own my own business. You know, both of those things made it something that was appealing to me and something that I wanted to do.
Lindsay Schultz's foundation to becoming a trainer runs deep. She grew up riding hunters and jumpers in Connecticut and got her first job mucking stalls before becoming a teen.
Honestly, I didn't really watch much racing until I went to college. It took me a little while to get into it, but once I did, I didn't stop.
She chose the University of Louisville not because it's located in the heart of racing, but to ride on its equestrian team, and most importantly for the school's equine studies at the College of Business.
So that was kind of one of the things that drew me to Louisville, because a lot of the other equine programs don't have a business program to back them up. I try to be logical, and it made sense to learn the business side of it.
After graduating from Louisville, Schultz learned the game globally through a 2-year internship in Darley's Flying Start Management Training Program. The past decade, she worked as a longtime assistant to Tom Proctor, managed Glen Hill Farm in Florida before going to work for Shug McGahee. Then in November of 2021, Schultz finally felt it was time to go out on her own.
It was really important to me to really understand every part of the business, especially since I didn't grow up in it. I don't have parents in it. I wasn't born on a horse.
Schultz's euphoric moment happened in just her 7th career start. The appropriately named Capture the Glory took charge in the stretch.
Capture the Glory is still strong, and this is going to give trainer Lindsay Schultz her first career victory. Capture the Glory indeed. Congratulations go to trainer Lindsay Schultz for her first training victory.
There's definitely horses that we can build on, and it's exciting to kind of get started and get the ball rolling.
And trainer Lindsay Schultz will send out that filly Cecile coming up in the Floral Park. She'll cut back in distance, and we'll see if a little bit shorter will help, but it's a fun story to watch a young trainer, somebody who did not grow up in the industry, making her way and having a lot of success as well.
Well, I think it just underscores the fact that if you're willing to work hard, you have a passion for something, and you go all in to achieve something, you can succeed. I think it's wonderful. Her horses always look good. She obviously does a good job. And a really kind of well-rounded background to get to this point, right? Between managing Glen Hill and the Flying Start program, and really something she should be very proud of.
Absolutely, and we'll have a contender coming up in this Floral Park Stakes. The favorite, though, continues to be Risk Threshold, as she will step into stakes company for the first time. But that filly right there, Secret Money, bit of an overlay right now, as she's probably the most talented horse in the field. Secret Money, can she get a clean trip in the 7th running of the Floral Park after this?
The rumblings started early and only intensified, with performances that sent shockwaves across the nation. At the center of it all,
Epicenter is at the top of the 3-year-old class in the Run Happy Travers.
Epicenter, 3-year-old champion by Not This Time. Coolmore America, home of champions.
You're watching America's Day at the Races as we have the stake named the Floral Park coming up. Let's take a look at some sights around downtown Floral Park. Such a charming downtown area, beautiful homes, great restaurants, and just a few minutes away from Belmont Park.
As a former Floral Park resident, I should say, it is a great little community, a real great community feel. That stretch there with Gyro Village and Uptown Taco and Village Pizza, which, by the way, outstanding pizza. And, you know, at night when I'm staying at Belmont Park, I always get my takeout from right there in Floral Park.
Oh, I love it. As we have the Floral Park coming up next, and it is currently the number 5 Risk Threshold, who's the favorite. She got the trip that you wanted on the turf last time out. She was with the flow of the track. You wanted to be inside and forward on the grass, so that 89 Beyer speed figure I think may be a little bit higher than what it actually was. But that being said, she does look to be the controlling pace in here.
She does. She looks like controlling speed to me. I don't see anybody that can entertain her early. She's 2 for 2 at the sprint distances. Chad Brown recognizing after she started at 7.5 furlongs and then a mile at Keeneland that I think she's more of a sprinter. You have to be able to identify a horse's strengths and play to them. Interesting though, right? For a filly that, you know, 2 wins, a second and a third from 4 starts, this will be her 5th different jockey.
Yeah, Manny Franco climbing aboard. Maggie, though, certainly nothing wrong with that, as Manny Franco and Chad Brown looking to win their second stake today.
And Acacia, I can imagine the directions are quite simple. Hang on, as Risk Threshold is one, though, that you have said and mentioned doesn't get out of the gate maybe in her first 2 strides the quickest, but easily finds her way to the lead. I have to say that today, you know, relative to what I saw from her 2 back, she's a little bit more settled. But also at the end of the day, she's built like a sprinter. This is what she wants to do, and after kind of virtually running off in her second start, I think they have found what her niche is, and it is sprinting here on the turf, especially at the 6 furlongs that we get at Aqueduct. So all things good for Risk Threshold. She looks happy, healthy, like I said, just a little bit more reserved than what I've seen from her, but oftentimes that comes with racing experience. To her inside is Secret Money, who is fairly accomplished when it comes to these turf sprints. And again, there's another example of what happens at Kentucky Downs stays at Kentucky Downs, as just a tough trip to overcome. And sometimes it is tough to overcome in these turf sprints because you don't have that much time to do so. But the problem with Secret Money is that she isn't one that's necessarily going to be forwardly placed. And a lot of times that speed or tactical speed is imperative to winning these types of races. She looks great here for Brendan Walsh. She's really, really fit. She has had not a lengthy campaign, but a comprehensive campaign here for 2024. So she should look this way, but all things good from your favorite. But between the two, I'd have to say I do prefer Risk Threshold. Now, 2 favorites to a long shot on the outside. And that's number 10, My Kentucky Girl. Now, she's only had 2 starts on the turf, and both of which going a mile. Well, overall, her body of work on the dirt is better when sprinting, so why not give her a shot here on the turf? Now, I know that she doesn't pick the easiest spot to do so in, but she looks like a turf sprinter. And plus, she really kind of caught my eye as she walked into the paddock. Not one that I think is ultimately going to prove to be best in here, but one I thought at a price you could use underneath, Acacia.
She's 19-1 at Maggie. Thank you. 5-year-old Mare by American Pharoah gets the sprint on the grass for the first time. That's a look, though, at Loon Cry, who's won her last 3 races, 2 of them stakes. Will look to make it 4 wins in a row in the Floral Park. More on this field after this.
War Dancer, New York's leading turf sire, continues the momentum with standouts like Ms. Big Bucks.
Ms. Big Bucks. gets the victory.
as well as Born Dancer.
Born Dancer, gutsy, and Born Dancer wins it.
And 26 Black, winner at 3 of his last 5 starts.
26 Black has sprinted by. 26 Black, that's your winner.
Shouldn't you have a War Dancer? War Dancer, New York's #1 turf sire, standing at Rockridge Stud for the 2025 season.
There's a big, bold, beautiful world waiting to be explored by you and your friends, of course. But not just any friends, the best of friends. The kind of friends who let you do you. Because in this world, it's positive vibes only. And when you get in the zone here, you stay a while. These aren't just good times, they're the best of times. And your time is now. So come explore. Resorts World.
It's amazing. I mean, we're used to having horses in claiming races, and here we're at the undercard of the Belmont.
And they're off in the Woody Stevens, and here's Bookham Dano, who has blown by them all. Bookham Dano, Prince of Monaco in between. It's going to get very close. Bookham Dano!
Winning on New York's most important day of racing. I can't. That was awesome. He's the best.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
Welcome back to America's Day at the Races. You're just in time for the Floral Park coming up in about 8 minutes. And we're going to meet the field. Richie starting off with one of 2 for trainer Christoph Kaman in the 1, Loon Cry.
Looking for her 4th win in a row, a deep closer. Love her record, sprinting, going 6 furlongs, 4 wins from 7 tries with 2 seconds.
She's a New York bred that has been so successful in open company as well. Here's a Maryland bred, Hollywood Walk.
Maryland bred, trained by Mike Trembetta, who very adept at where his horses belong. She's going to have to step forward, though.
Love Appeals, the other one for the Clement Barn.
I like her a lot. I like the 6 furlongs here at Aqueduct for her.
A little bit more tactical speed than her stablemate. Here's Secret Money coming out of Greatest Stakes tries.
Yeah, closing in on $900,000 in career earnings, probably on the strength of some of those Kentucky Downs races.
Risk Threshold, first time in Stakes Company.
She's fast and looks like she's lone speed.
We saw the story on trainer Lindsay Schultz. She'll send out Cecile.
And you get the other Davis, Katie Davis, who's put together a nice meeting so far here at Belmont at the Big A.
And My Kentucky Girl, first time on the turf in a long time. Only 2 turf tries for a mile at Del Mar.
Yeah, trainer Bill Mott, Tommy Town Thoroughbred, seeing them have a bit more of a East Coast presence.
Well, there is your favorite even money now on Risk Threshold. She came back last time out and was able to wire the field with that good inside trip. But as we touched on, she's not the immediate quickest out of the gate. As you'll see from the inside, she breaks just about a half step slow. And Junior Alvarado, who was aboard that day, kind of pushed the button and she went phew and went out to the front and was able to control things from there.
Yeah, she's shifty, right? She has gears. She set sail. I think this is one of those instances where the inside post actually was a benefit to her because breaking a step slow, you have room to work with inside of you. You're not between 2 horses where you run the risk of getting squeezed. That's not the case today.
She got the advantageous trip last time out. She is still lightly raced compared to many of the horses that she's facing in here who has some more foundation and some more wins. But tactically, that's the biggest reason why we're seeing her at such a short price.
Well, yeah, and listen, obviously very strong connections. Chad Brown, Klarovich stable. You get Manny Franco, a horse with lone speed that's 2 for 2 sprinting. Completely understand, but I don't think it's just a layup. I think there's some very, very nice horses in here that she's got to contend with. I happen to like the 3 Love Appeals. I've always liked her, though. I've always been a fan. Some horses you just gravitate to. I've always gravitated to Love Appeals.
And she's a horse that she has, as we'll take a look at the race at Laurel last time out in the Sensible 80 that her stablemate Loon Cry did end up winning. It seemed like Love Appeals was kind of rushed up in between horses, and she never was able to get totally comfortable. But she does have more tactical speed than her stablemate, who is that deep 1-run closer.
Yeah, and Loon Cry wants to drop out and come with that one run, and Joel Rosario likes to ride that way as well. I think Love Appeal sits a good trip this time in here. I think she's going to be the one tucked in behind the 5 risk threshold, and you know she's live cover. You're not going to expect her to stop in your face.
Absolutely. 5-1 on Love Appeals, 3-1 on Loon Cry right now. And I think, too, that the same conversation about the pace with the 4 Secret Money, who has definitely faced the best company throughout her career. It's been a long time since she's won, but she, too, is one that tends to come from very far off of it.
Yeah, and in a race that just doesn't seem to have a lot of speed signed on, I just think it puts these horses at a tactical disadvantage.
Well, there's Love Appeals warming up on the track. Maggie, it's been a little while since we've seen this filly on the NYRA circuit. How's she's looking to you?
Yeah, both of Christelle Clement trainees actually haven't seen them, excuse me, in a while, but both making good impressions. I do prefer, like Richie, and I think you, Acacia, Love Appeals here, not only on form because of the dynamics of this race and how she runs her races, but also just physically and watching the two of them warm up. I think, you know, she just has a little bit more of a focused type of demeanor about her today, whereas Loon Cry has gotten maybe a little hot, and just I preferred the way that Love Appeals was moving, and she's just a ball of muscle, as she typically has been throughout her career. And as you mentioned, had a little bit of trouble in that last race in the Sensible Lady. Now, no disrespect to Loon Cry, weirdly, for a New York bred. She hasn't run here in New York as she's out of conditions, but is undefeated. Excuse me, not undefeated this year, but has won her last 3 straight. She looks great overall. Just like I said, marginally preferring Love Appeals in the warm-ups. Acacia?
7-2 on Love Appeals. Maggie, thank you. Loon Cry, though, in good form right now, and we'll see if either of them can keep the momentum going and step forward in this spot. The number 4 Secret Money, though, we'll go back to her. As you mentioned, Richie, even though she just has the 3 wins of the 14 starts, banked nearly $900,000, but has run a couple of times at Kentucky Downs, including winning the Music City last year in 2023, and that certainly will help your bank tally.
Yeah, I think that pads your your bank account just a touch. But listen, Brendan Walsh does tremendous work. I think she's another one, though, that just might be a little up against it because she doesn't possess a great deal of natural speed. But you get Kendrick Carmouche, who understands flows of races, where you need to be. Maybe this filly puts herself in a little bit of a better spot.
See what kind of position she can get in here, coming out of a troubled trip at Kentucky Downs last time out, where she was just kind of taken out of contention at the start as well. Ran well in the Caress 2 starts back, coming off of it up at Saratoga as well. If you're a rider and you see, as these riders, they do their homework, watching replays, looking at the form, and you see that there's a horse like the 5 risk threshold who is maybe not quite as good as some of the horses that she's facing, but has a tactical advantage, what are some of the things you can do if you're on one of the closers? Say you're on Loon Cry, say you're on Secret Money. What are some of the things you can do to try and not let that horse get too far away from you?
You really can't change a horse's style, right? You got to play to the horse's strength. The one thing I would say, if I'm around her, I'm on the 4, I'm on the 6. I've noted in her races that she doesn't always break sharp. And a jockey's job is to make it as hard on the competition within the boundaries of the rules. I want to come out sharp. And if I can, make her uncomfortable or make the rider have to ask her and set her off a bit. You don't want to allow her to just pop to the lead, throw her ears up, game over, right? I want the rider at least have to go, okay, you know, show some speed, and then maybe turn her on where he can't turn her off.
If she pops out to the front like she did last time, got so comfortable, risk threshold, be hard to run her down. But again, it seemed like she was on a turf course where horses were not making up that much ground last time. You also really wanted to be inside, and just it never came back to them on the grass. The turf course now has been playing so much fairer, so you would imagine there'd be more opportunity to run down a horse like her.
Yeah, I still think you don't want to give her too much rope.
Absolutely.
And I think Love Appeal fits that profile. That's why I picked her. But last time, I think just getting to what you're talking about, how inside speed was so good. Think about that moving sidewalk at the airport, right? You're walking along, you hit that moving sidewalk. It's a conveyor belt. It carries you along. Our turf course at that period of time in her last effort, and that's not to belittle her effort because she still ran.
Right.
I think that's the best way you could describe it. It was a bit of that conveyor belt effect as well.
A good analogy. She's 7-5 right now. Risk Threshold, who will try to use that early speed to her advantage. There is New York bred Loon Cry, who's on back-to-back stakes against Open Company, and will look to pick up another one here today. Loading in for the Floral Park, Chris Griffin has the call. The fillies and mares.
Secret Money. Risk Threshold. Two out. Cecile. My Kentucky Girl to the outside. Goes in. All set for the Floral Park. And they're off. Risk Threshold with the speed right out towards the front, and Love Appeals goes with this leader, and towards the outside, Cecile is in that early mix at the rail. Hollywood Walk wants to hold that rail position, might have to steady out of there, and does, is just in that fourth position, saving ground to the inside. Secret Money's in the green cap is progressing, as was fifth, now fourth, as a tight hold there on Hollywood Walk is back to the fifth spot, less than 4 to go. To the far outside, there comes My Kentucky Girl in the trailer. Loon Cry, they're chasing Risk Threshold. Risk Threshold under a very tight hold here from Manny Franco is still up by about 3/4 of a length, well into the far turn and well within herself. It's Risk Threshold in front. Cecile has moved up to the outside. Love Appeals is tracking right in behind this leader, Risk Threshold, who now lets it out. Top of the lane, and Risk Threshold is trying to put away a stubborn Cecile. And Cecile, the big long shot, has now put a nose in front. Risk Threshold is back to second and been passed. It is Cecile who's in front at a huge number. Grandstand side, Secret Money. In between horses, Love Appeals. Here's Love Appeals now bursting through. Secret Money down to these two. Secret Money, Love Appeals, nose and nose. Give it to Secret Money. Secret Money wins the Floral Park, and a tight photo there with Love Appeals.
A wild finish in the Floral Park. Secret Money. Sometimes it is just as simple as the class, Richie.
No excuses for your favorite. The 5 Risk Threshold got everything her own way in the lead, came up wanting in the lane. It looked as though Love Appeals, when she got out between horses, was going to get it done, but Secret Money, resolute, kept sticking her nose out and down and fought for it all the way to the wire. It almost felt like the two Hollywood Walk came along on the outside and almost prompted her a little bit to go on a little bit more. Again, terrific race between the winner and the runner-up. Not a lot to say after that. They didn't go fast early, but they went fast late.
Finished very quick as well, as we are being told that the number 4 Secret Money has been pulled up past the wire. Kendrick Carmouche is off. We will provide you an update when we have that involving the number 4, your unofficial winner, Secret Money, there down to the wire in the Floral Park. Unfortunately, I don't have any information to convey at the moment. We certainly hope that everybody is okay. It does look from our vantage point like Kendrick Carmouche is on his feet. So are we taking a break? No, we are unfortunately about to end our show in just a minute. Not the way we would like to close out. Like I said, we will provide updates on the horse Secret Money on our NYRA social media as we have it. You can watch the remainder of the card on the NYRA app, on the YouTube channel as well, NYRA live stream simulcast as well. And like I said, we'll provide updates online for Secret Money as we have it, as we will say goodbye. Like I said, an unfortunate note to end on, but we will wrap up there, our show ending, unfortunately, here on Fox Sports 1. So stay tuned for those updates. We will be back tomorrow, America's Day at the races, starting at 12:30. Please be sure to check your local listings. We'll be on from 12:30 to 2:30 tomorrow with live racing, including that Knickerbocker. Thanks very much for joining us today on America's Day at the races. Good night, everyone.
Curlin's Grade 1 son, Solomini, New York's leading sire of 2-year-olds in 2023 and sire of Grade 2 winner Winstock.
Winstock's just the leader from Stronghold and Coach Prime and Winstock.
New York Stakes winner My Shady Lady.
My Shady Lady gets the victory.
2024 Stakes winners Solo Shot.
Solo Shot and also Geopolitics in a tight photo.
And Doc Sullivan.
Doc Sullivan dominates the Mike Lee.
Solomini, standing at McMahon of Saratoga Thoroughbreds.
You have to be here to feel the rumble from 40,000 race fans. Mixed with the Pacific breeze, you have to be here to taste extravagance and witness greatness race after race after race. You have to be here to witness unforgettable and to believe the unbelievable. This November, be at Del Mar for an experience that's truly a breed apart.